Chapter 381. The yellow giant sword Qi split from the middle, dividing into three and striking towards Duanyun, Fenglinger, and Shen Ying respectively. What he needed to do was to separate the three demons, to prevent the two female fiends from becoming old demon Duan's wings again. Dodge! Duanyun knew that the real fight had begun. In perfect unison with Shen Ying and Fenglinger, they flew away in a flash, avoiding the Huangshan sword Qi. With several sect leaders either dead or injured, these two female heroes were more than capable of handling these evil fiends. But as old Riversiders, they knew that these were just side dishes. Their biggest enemies were above them, the Huangshan sect leader's wife and Chen Sanju, who had just unleashed that mighty Huangshan golden sword. In the next instant, with a booming sound, the ground trembled. Duanyun raised his hand, and black-breaking body sword energy furiously surged out, forming a claw shape. From this angle, he looked as if he had grabbed the incoming yellow giant sword Qi with his bare hands. As he exerted force with his hand, the black-breaking body sword energy wildly spread, and the yellow giant sword Qi immediately covered with black cracks, becoming twisted and deformed. Chen Sanju slapped with his left hand, and bright yellow sword Qi penetrated into the giant sword Qi, flickering like flowing light. Only to hear a loud bang, the black sword Qi and the yellow sword Qi exploded and collapsed together, the bursting sword Qi smashing dense holes into the ground. Chen Sanju waved his sleeve, and behind him emerged the Dharma image of Golden Sword Mountain. He said, "Old Demon Duan, Huangshan Sword Sect leader Chen Sanju is here to learn from you." Duanyun looked at the even thicker golden sword in his hand and said, "So you are the Huangshan demon Chen Sanju. Do you remember your evil demon deceased daughter when you see this sword in my hand?" As he spoke, he lifted the Huangshan golden sword in his hand. Chen Sanju squinted his eyes, without showing any emotion. Duanyun continued, "This sword is quite comfortable to use, just that it had a bit of an odor at the beginning. Courting death." Chen Sanju shook his right hand, and the Huangshan golden sword emitted a piercing hum. Golden sword overturning mountains. Golden sword Qi rolled over, the air flowing like water, and in Duanyun's eyes, this sword Qi was like a mountain top tumbling towards him, with a grand momentum. This martial arts conference's most eye-catching was naturally the candidate for Martial Arts Alliance Hierarch, the Huangshan sword sect leader's wife Zhao Ling, and many had overlooked her behind-the-scenes supporter Chen Sanju. Chen Sanju had been relatively low-profile for many years, seldom taking action. In reality, he had been hiding his capability. He had already trained Huangshan swordsmanship to a realm where sword energy is as heavy as mountains. On the surface, it looked like he was not much different from today's 6 sect leaders, merely basking in the glory of his wife. In truth, he had long been pulling ahead of them in secret. If the 6 sect leaders could only be considered average in a group of grandmasters, with the weaker ones even below average, then he had already stepped into the ranks of the higher echelon of grandmasters. The destined rise of his wife overshadowed his own light, which he did not mind, because he truly loved her. Loved everything about her, even her entanglements with other men. But at this moment, no one could block his radiance. The yellow sword Qi rolled over like mountains, and Duanyun suddenly burst into laughter. "Bring it on!"
Breaking body sword Qi column.
This sound seemed a bit stammering, like a repetitive rhythm, a bit funny, but it actually created a shocking scene. As Duanyun's figure thrust forward, with each additional column utterance, another sword column appeared in front of him. Like a rapper, he said 7 column words, and instantly 7 sword columns were shot out, blocking the rolling yellow sword Qi. Seeing this, Chen Sanju remarked, "You think these shattered columns can stop a mountain? Mountain beyond mountain." With that said, the Dharma image of a golden sword stuck in a mountain behind him suddenly swelled immensely, emitting a glow like sunlight shining on a golden mountain, with an even more domineering presence. Combine! In an instant, Duanyun brought his hands together, and the 7 sword columns quickly merged into one, the color turning even darker and more intense, bringing up a deafening humming noise. At this moment, it was as though 10,000 wailing spirits were in the black sword Qi, or tens of thousands of buzzing bees, immensely terrifying. With a whoosh, the mountain-like yellow sword chi was pierced through by the densely trembling black sword chi. And so, the mighty Chin Sanju couldn't help but yell, "Wife, help me!" as he shouted these 4 words, although he reacted very quickly, moving to the side with a blur of an afterimage. His shoulder was still grazed by the black sword column. In an instant, the clothes on his shoulder along with the flesh turned into tatters, entangled with the black sword chi threads. Chan Sanju's sword fell as he moved, directly cutting off the flesh on his shoulder to prevent the sword chi threads from spreading further. However, just as the passing sword chi column suddenly twisted, aiming to strike at him again, this black sword chi column only twirled 2 inches before it halted abruptly, caused by Duan Yun suddenly feeling a chill in his heart, sensing danger, as the gentle knife was already unsheathed. 6-fold spring rain. The bright sword light, cleansed by the spring rain, barely emerged before it swiftly turned dim and blurred. As the pervading dust and smoke lingered, a dragon-shaped claw print rapidly pierced through the air and collided with it. This dragon-shaped claw print was neither as bright as the spring rain blade's light nor as majestic as the Huangshan sword chi, but it conveyed an overwhelming momentum capable of destroying everything. No, it wasn't just momentum. The 6-stage spring rain was instantly shattered, and Duan Yun raised his sword and exerted his force to defend, protecting his side. With a thunderous boom, like spring thunder striking the ground, the azure dragon claw hit the gentle knife, the power unstoppable. Duan Yun was sent flying with his sword, tumbling several times before he managed to stabilize himself. The Huangshan sect leader's wife stood there, dragon foot pressing down, shattering the ground, with cracks spreading out like a spider's web. She stood there, her gaze mocking, as if she hadn't moved at all. Indeed, once the dragon claw was unleashed, it was extraordinary. Duan Yun couldn't help but twist his left arm, feeling an unbearable numbness. "Lady, there's no need to talk about martial ethics when facing such evil and heretical foes."
Revenge for Yingar.
As these 5 words came out, Zhao Ling, who initially had a mocking look, instantly filled her eyes with the malice of piercing needles. In the next instant, they moved to join forces against Duan Yun. However, Duan Yun moved first. He slid like a streak of light toward the depths of the hall. Disciples of the 6 sects were either killed or injured by the electric shock, and those lucky enough had already run to the outskirts to continue watching the fight. The Huangshan sword sect disciples stayed due to the presence of their leader and lady, and they were the mainstay of this martial arts conference, so they naturally didn't run but stood closer inward. At that moment, they could only watch helplessly as old demon Duan slid towards them. "Mr. Duan, run away!" Duan Yun, like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, had the disciples in front of him barely scatter before they were connected by black lightning, their voices trembling fiercely. At this time, Zhao Ling and Chun Sanju had caught up. Almost simultaneously, a chorus of "Oh!" was heard. The disciples of the Huangshan sword sect shook as they urinated uncontrollably, like arrows flying in disarray. Zhao Ling and Chun Sanju paused, hastily raising their true chi to resist. The flying urine was instantly deflected by their potent true chi, turning into a mist. Thus, inside the gathering Talent Manor Hall, a slightly yellow mist quickly formed. But this slight delay became Duan Yun's advantage. The disciples in front were trembling and peeing from the electric shock, while those in the back were retreating. But could they retreat faster than nameless young hero? As Duan Yun leaped into the crowd, black lightning once again connected people together. As Zhao Ling and Chan Sanju turned around to reach them, another fierce rain of urine arrows struck. At this moment, the bystanders realized that old demon Duan was exploiting weakness to the extreme. It seemed if Zhao Ling kicked him, he would electrocute a group of Huangshan disciples, and for the second kick, another group. Thus, in a short time, nearly 100 Huangshan sword sect disciples were electrified and lost control, regardless of gender. Duan Yun's actions were, of course, to delay. After all, Chun Sanju was with the Murong brothers. But at this moment, the Murong brothers hadn't appeared yet. because the Murong brothers were being blocked, or rather, they were being obstructed. To remain as concealed as possible, squeezing in using just bodily strength was truly difficult. With a bang, a fearsome dragon strength swept out, pulverizing the urinating Huangshan disciples along with their urine. Zhao Ling didn't care if they were her sex disciples. She was furious and wanted old demon Duan dead. Unexpectedly, the opponent was so ruthless, and Duan Yun was indeed stopped. But then, a bright and sinister rotating blade light suddenly flew towards them. The obstructed Murong brothers, here they come. Chapter 382. You're so sassy. In the instant the sword chi struck, Huangshan sect leader Chan Sanju broke out in goosebumps and thrust his sword behind him, letting it rest on his back. With a clang, there was a loud explosion, and the air twisted. He spun around like a top several times, but still managed to steady his figure. Chan Sanju's eyes emitted a cold light, and in a flash, he glared in the direction of the Murong brothers and berated, "Shameless scoundrels! How dare you sneak attack? State your names!" The Murong brothers wormed their way out of the crowd, their bodies covered in handprints and some unspeakable marks on their clothes, which resembled a black sack. Damn it! Got groped all over while squeezing through. With a swish, the Murong brothers flung off their black robes, revealing their nimble figures. The people behind saw his dark green hair and the green saber, and could not help exclaiming, "Jury green blade demon!" No sooner had the words left their mouth than that person let out a scream, because at the moment the green moon saber was unsheathed, it had carved a slash on his thigh. The person looked at the Murong brothers with a shocked expression. The Murong brothers turned around and said righteously, "What are you looking at? I did that on purpose. If it were the nameless young hero, you'd be dead already." The person quickly knelt down and said, "Thank you, Murong hero, for sparing my life. None of those who dare to come here for the spectacle are afraid of death. But it would be too much of a loss to die halfway through such a good show." The crowd suddenly awakened. The Green Blade Demon, as a follower of old Demon Duan, indeed didn't have a heart as petty as Mr. Duan's. In the next instant, the Murong brothers, in front of Huangshan sect leader Chan Sanju, lifted the saber and started twisting their hips. It has to be said, their hip twisting was incredibly rhythmic, like a dance. Some even started drooling. In a contest between masters, one's mental state and details can affect the outcome. Therefore, the Murong brothers chose to sacrifice their dignity. Their handsome appearance and hip-twisting antics used to disturb Chan Sanju's mental state. Chan Sanju's eyes were fixated, and his mentality was indeed affected. "This saucy hussy!" Chan Sanju cursed loudly, and no matter how the Murong brothers continued to twist, he showed no mercy and launched 3 swords at them. 3 swords broke through the air with a crisp sound. But with a hip twist, the Murong brothers narrowly avoided all 3. This hip-twisting was not only effective in disturbing the minds of Chan Sanju and the men behind him, but also served as an extremely flirtatious evasive cultivation technique. Chan Sanju was enraged, his swordplay faster, even with a hard-to-vent fury. These days, he often watched his lady play with others, while he could only watch without participation, which naturally left him fiery. However, as a man who loved his lady, this fury was well suppressed, deep, and might become a wonderful preference in the future. But who would have thought a man's hip-twisting could evoke this fury? Truly, as expected from someone who mingles with old Demon Duan, profoundly wicked. Chan Sanju dared not hold back any longer, his Dharma image behind him reflecting a light as bright as the sun over the gold mountain. He had to treat his opponent as he would old Demon Duan himself. The Murong brothers knew this guy didn't pity their attractive appearance and couldn't help but get angry. "You're fighting for real. Spin. Damn. Spring rain blades 6-fold spin. Spin." The mountainous gold sword chi and the spinning sword light of the spring rain blade collided. Boom. Like rolling thunder, the surrounding air rippled like undulating waves. In an instant, most of the doors and windows of the great hall were blown away, like cannonballs, directly injuring and killing the upfront crowd of onlookers, especially a burly man at the front, whose head had a red-lacquered wooden window embedded in it, looking like a giant rooster. Bleeding, he turned his head and scared the people around him into screaming. But when he fell to the ground, the Jianghu people behind him continued to scream and madly stepped over the bodies, craning their necks to peek inside. Just that one move of clashing forces was enough for the Murong brothers to realize that Chan Sanju, as the old master of the Huangshan sword sect, possessed slightly denser true qi. Huangshan sword qi and the sixfold spring rain blade clashed, and he was at a slight disadvantage. The approaching sword qi hit his protective true qi, giving him the sensation of having been harshly slapped dozens of times in the face. A bit painful. But Murong was the epitome of getting stronger the more he fought. Chan Sanju, his rage evoked, seemed to breathe fire, unleashing a golden sword-breaking mountain in one moment and a cross-cloud slash in the next. The horizontally slashing sword qi, like a layer of clouds over Huang Mountain, appeared light and fast but concealed the heaviness of a mountain. In the next instant, the Murong brothers instinctively laid flat on the ground, sliding like a fish to dodge the attack while still flirtatiously twisting their hips. Their hips could not stop. Saucy hussy! Chan Sanju's face flushed as he cursed again and once more spurred his true qi. He couldn't wait. He must quickly deal with this green blade demon, for he could feel the demon getting more and more provocative. If this continued, it might indeed affect his mood. Chan Sanju realized that the Murong brothers' true qi was no match for Mr. Duan's, and he was suppressing them. Without any hesitation, he leaped into the air, like an eagle soaring to the skies. Facing old demon Duan, he wouldn't dare to easily place himself in midair where it was hard to maneuver, but against the green blade demon, he could. Seeing the Murong brothers being pushed into the corner of the great hall, their space to maneuver rapidly shrinking, his Huangshan golden sword let out a buzzing resonance, and down came the sword. Chapter 383. Huangshan Overhead. This is the most powerful yet the hardest to alter move in the 14 sword skills of Yellow Mountain. Instead of a sharp chop, the descending sword resembled more of a slap. From the wider-than-usual body of the Huangshan golden sword burst forth a thick yellow sword qi, like a long and wide yellow wooden door panel, smashing down towards the Murong brothers. At the moment of the smash, the ground beneath the Murong brothers cracked open, indicative of the massive force behind this sword strike. Rotate. Damn. 7-layer spring rain rotation. In that instant, the Murong brothers squeezed out all the true qi they could muster from their bodies, executing the 7-layer spring rain. The 7 swirling layers of sword light, like streaming silk, met the yellow wooden door panel. Boom! A deep trench appeared on the ground, exploding from within. Where the trench formed by the sword qi passed, walls ripped apart like paper, roof tiles flew, and bystanders behind got hit by the overflowing sword qi, sending bodies tumbling while literally blasting the shit out of them. Huangshan overhead. Terrifying indeed. And what about the Murong brothers who were at the heart of this sword attack? The Murong brothers lay at the bottom of the trench, expressions slightly pained. In that instant, although the 7-layer spring rain had nullified most of the sword qi, a portion still pressed down. Drawing upon the memories of Duan Yun treating the Qiongling sect female sword cultivator above his head, even substituting the image with his own sister, they summoned the mysterious power of endless hatred. This power caused their hair to move as if sentient, protecting the most impacted parts, their heads and one shoulder. But the unprotected right shoulder went numb. It was his sword-wielding hand. After executing this sword strike, Chan Sanju was also out of breath, faltering in his steps. While his true qi was denser than the Murong brothers, ultimately, as a man nearly 50 years old, repeatedly executing such fierce moves took its toll, especially since his shoulder had already been injured while dealing with old demon Duan. With this ferocious sword strike coming down, the wound he was barely managing with his true qi burst open again, bleeding. Yet he knew he couldn't stop. Green Blade Demon was tougher than he'd expected. Look, even after being smashed to the ground, that fellow didn't forget to twerk. Truly twerking to the grandma's house. As he spoke, he held on to his bleeding shoulder, swinging his sword out again. This was a sweep-back sword move, the returning Wind Willow Sword of the Huangshan Sword Sect. The returning Wind Willow Sword was another unique technique of the Huangshan Sword Sect, one soft and the other fierce compared to the 14 sword skills of Yellow Mountain. When Duan Yun had gone to kill Zhu Xiang's entire family, Mrs. Zhu Qining, the sect leader's daughter, had used this extremely soft Huangshan technique against Duan Yun. Sadly, eventually defeated by Duan Yun, urine splashing on the golden sword. But this sect leader truly mastered both hardness and softness, using the returning Wind Willow Sword now, even softer and more delicate than his own daughter Qining. Yes, he had been too fierce just now, so this time he went for the soft approach. As he swept out the willow-like soft sword qi, his whole waist moved like a willow in the wind. Above, Chun Sanju swayed like a tender willow, and below, in the pit, Murong swayed provocatively, forming quite a bizarre scene in the eyes of the onlookers. Unaware, one might think it was two big men flaunting flamboyantly in a dance battle. These two cheeky fellows. Murong twisted his butt to mobilize the chi blood in his body, hastening the recovery of his numb arm, and also to maintain the dodging movement technique in preparation for the next attack. In the next instant, he switched his knife-wielding hand to the left. He had once envied Duan Yun's mastery of both sword and saber, thus later trained his left hand with the knife, even practicing techniques involving holding the knife with his crotch, or clenching it between his teeth, hoping to one day master the two-sword style, three-sword style, or even four-sword style. This deliberate practice now proved effective. His left-hand knife, though not as good as the right, was sufficient for his performance. The moment his hand gripped the knife handle, smooth like jade, his mindset returned to the pavilion. The pavilion melodious with spring rain. In that pavilion was a knife, him, and Ning Qing. He had promised Ning Qing to vanquish demons and uphold righteousness, to return, and he would definitely return. With a whoosh, a crescent-like blade light abruptly shone bright. This crescent blade light, naturally not as bright, ethereal, and unstoppable as those slashed by Senior Ding with his crescent moon blade, carried a fiery passion. A moonlit night pure like true love. Pure love swordsman has arrived. The moonlight shattered the willow branches, unleashing sword and saber energy that peppered the nearby walls with pockmarks. Seizing the moment, Murong brother flipped up from the pit, counterattacking with a slash. Chun Sanju twisted his waist more delicately than ever, like a water snake winding around the willow branches. Thus, this time, even more returning Wind Willow Sword energy emerged, its trajectory more mysterious. Although Murong brother's crescent-like slash blocked most of the willow branch sword chi, a small portion still struck him, shredding his clothes and even drawing blood. Chun Sanju gasped heavily, unable to suppress his joy. He finally hit him, but in the next moment, his eyes widened in shock. Stunned by such a sight, Chun Sanju visibly hesitated. In a high-level duel, that hesitation allowed Murong brother to seize the opportunity. Enduring severe pain in his thigh, and emotionally pained with endless hatred, Murong brother, with green hair fluttering, raised his hand and slashed. A swift and fierce green sword light swept out. Chun Sanju managed to react, raising his sword to block. Unfortunately, it was too late. As soon as the sword light was blocked by the sword, it split into two, striking his ribs, and his face immediately turned green. Murong brother too couldn't help but feel elated. Hit him. On the other side, Duan Yun and sect leader's wife Zhaoling had already exchanged over 10 moves. A dragon claw attacked. Duan Yun and Little Yu unleashed 2 columns of death energy sword chi to meet it. With a loud bang, the sword energy columns shattered, and Duan Yun's body slid backward. Where his feet passed, the ground shattered, as if plowed, forming 2 deep furrows. In an instant, Duan Yun's eyes grew cold. His right foot stomped fiercely on the ground. His figure flickered to the side, leaving a trailing afterimage. A dull, thunder-like explosion sounded, painfully reverberating in the ears. The spot he had just vacated was completely crushed by a dragon claw. The green dragon claw, growing from a woman's leg, bore terrifying speed and strength, as if it was going to crush everything. At that moment, the rubble stirred up by the dragon claw hit him, causing bone-piercing pain. In the recent exchange of over 10 moves, he used Death Energy Breaking Body Sword Chi Column, Spring Rain Blade, Embrace Sparrowtail, Breaking Body Black Sword, and various other techniques. While most packed considerable power, the Mad Woman had only one move. She used her dragon foot to relentlessly kick him, all kinds of forceful kicks, suggesting a notion that one force could break all methods. Duan Yun had been kicked to multiple swellings, seriously injured, but though shocked, he appeared even more excited and frenzied. It had been a long time since he met an opponent who could stand toe-to-toe and even suppress him. "Come on, you mad woman. Today, if you don't kill me, I'll make sure you spill your teeth everywhere." Hearing the words "spill your teeth," a thick hatred flashed in Zhao Ling's eyes. "My dear daughter." Her dragon foot abruptly lifted, and at this moment, an actual dragon's roar rang out unnaturally. Though there was only one dragon foot, it produced a real dragon's roar in a moment truly eerie and terrifying. Within an instant, Duan Yun's ears twitched, his sword spinning rapidly in his hand, forming a blur. Sword Hurricane. With a loud bang, it was as if numerous barrels of gunpowder exploded simultaneously, beams breaking, roof tiles shattering, steaming like smoke. A dragon-shaped chi force burst out from the dragon foot and collided with the sword hurricane. Duan Yun stepped back a dozen steps to steady his stance, his brows slightly furrowed, while Zhao Ling's 10 dragon claws twisted, as if provoking. At this moment, only to hear Chun Sanju, his face green with joy, exclaimed, "Ling, I want you to be more intense with that man." Zhao Ling replied, "I'll satisfy you." Speaking, her dragon claw moved. Another dragon cry sounded. At this sound, a terrifying suction force burst forth, pulling the nearby men watching towards her, sucked under her skirt. In the next instant, she had leapt into the air, and those men, like sucked cushion pads, flew under her skirt, struggling. Chun Sanju's face was filled with delight, chi swirling around him. He exclaimed, "This is so thrilling." At this moment, both Murong brothers and Duan Yun were startled. How could these two have grown even stronger? Chapter 384. Deciding victory and defeat as well as life and death. Sect leader's wife, Zhao Ling, drew several men under her skirts, a look of utter satisfaction on her face. Huangshan Sword Sect's sect leader, Chun Sanju, saw this scene, his expression even more satisfied. In that instant, the emotions of both soared, and even the strength of the true chi they emitted was much more formidable. Such an outcome had completely taken Duan Yun and the Murong brothers by surprise. In the past, anyone afflicted by the Murong brothers' endless hatred would become utterly disorientated, regardless of gender, and whether or not their lover cared, they would suffer immensely. But at this moment, this couple seemed to find great joy in it, and even used it to enhance their martial prowess. "Keep going. Keep going. More. Give me more. 3 strikes for me." Chun Sanju looked at the Murong brothers with frenzied eyes and shouted loudly. At this moment, the Murong brothers felt a chill run down their spines. This was the first time they had encountered someone who actually asked to be struck. "Go eat shit." The Murong brothers' jade blade hummed as they slashed out, without the intent of endless hatred. The sword chi was not green. With a flick of his sword, Chun Sanju's golden sword chi instantly swallowed the sword chi, while he excitedly exclaimed, "Green blade demon, your sword chi isn't pure. Can you even do it? If you can't, I'm going to kill you." To be honest, not being able to wield their signature green saber as they pleased was like cutting off an arm for the Murong brothers. Hence, the Murong brothers gritted their teeth and declared, "Then this young hero will accompany you on your journey." In an instant, their green hair fluttered like aquatic grass in a lake, and the blade trembled, forming green sword chi. Seeing the green glow emitted by the blade, Chun Sanju couldn't help but yell, "Give it to me!" Saying this, he dashed forward. With a whoosh, the green sword chi formed 3 hoops and slashed out. The sword chi was green and attractive to Chan Sanju, but was mixed with a sharp edge. If he liked their green saber so much, he needed to endure the pain that came with it. Upon seeing this, Chan Sanju gracefully twisted his waist and unleashed the returning wind willow sword once more. In an instant, the green sword chi of the Murong brothers was weakened by the willow-like sword chi, entangled and restrained. As the green sword chi dimmed slightly, Chan Sanju kicked out, causing the sword chi to stagnate and enter his leg. Chan Sanju couldn't help but reveal an expression of enjoyment, licking his lips and vehemently saying, "Any more left? Any more?" He turned to look at the lady, who, while sucking in men, was fiercely battling with Duan Yun, her aura churning wildly. Disgusting. Even though the Murong brothers had long been considered one of the most twisted demon of the last decade, sometimes even finding themselves perverse, they now felt that Chan Sanju was truly twisted. Before the Murong brothers could strike again, Chan Sanju rushed over with a violent force. With a thud, like a warhammer hitting a dull drum, Huangshan golden sword clashed with the green moon saber, sending sparks flying like rain. The Murong brothers felt an immense force strike them, sending them flying out like a cannonball, crashing through the wall. They slid with the saber in hand, stabilizing themselves, but spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, sensing something was wrong. This man's martial prowess was already deeper than theirs, and after being struck by their green saber, the injury seemed minor. Instead, he became even more powerful, as if their green saber was an activator for him. Through the person-shaped hole they had created, dust flowed, signaling that Chan Sanju was coming again. The Murong brothers struck out with their saber again. For some reason, they still wielded the green saber. With a clang, this time, the green sword chi was blocked by the Huangshan golden sword and Chan Sanju caught it in his hand. The green color in the sword chi was absorbed again, and as Chan Sanju's complexion grew greener, his fighting spirit intensified. "Here's to your teeth." Not waiting for Chan Sanju to fully digest, the Murong brothers slashed with another strike. Chan Sanju received it again. The green sword chi entered his body, giving Chan Sanju a feeling of euphoric explosion. "Bring it on." The Murong brothers, gasping heavily, swung another strike. This strike, too, carried a green tinge, forming an arc like a bright moon. Chan Sanju repeated the old maneuver, twisting his waist again and launching the returning wind willow sword, restraining the Murong brothers' sword chi, and frantically absorbing it. In the eyes of the surrounding Jianghu people, the Murong brothers appeared to be completely suppressed, even defeated. He was like his sword chi, entirely at the mercy of Huangshan sect leader Chan Sanju. It must be said, there was a reason Chan Sanju was able to be Zhao Ling's man. But this time, as he absorbed the sword chi, Chan Sanju's face suddenly turned pale, showing a pained expression. Indeed, nobody noticed that when the Murong brothers issued the strike, their eyes shifted from the endless hatred to an instant purity, like the spring rain outside a small pavilion. A night listening to spring rain. Originally, as Chan Sanju absorbed the sword chi and turned greener, he was suddenly filled with the pure love of a night listening to spring rain, as if yin and yang had collided, igniting a flame in ice, catching him completely off guard. In an instant, he remembered his first encounter with Zhao Ling. Back then, they were both very young, two heavenly prides of their time. The first time he saw Zhao Ling, he fell in love with her silhouette standing under the bright peach blossoms, carrying a Saiyan sword. Afterward, they roamed the martial world together, in high spirits, seeing a world full of blooming flowers. On one rainy night, they drank on a light boat in Great Ming Lake, using lotus leaves as cups, drinking and tossing leaves, until they lay drunkenly embraced on the boat. At that time, his eyes held only her, and her eyes held only him. Chapter 385. But what happened next? After that, things changed. As life gradually returned to normalcy, they began to seek excitement. So there they embraced in the light boat, with only each other as lovers, while the image of the lady being played with by another man overlaid outside the window. The more these images overlapped, like mixing ink into clear water, the more glaring it became. Why? Why? It hurts. It hurts so much. The more vivid those memories of faithful love, the deeper the thrill behind would pierce his heart. Why not faithful? Those who are unfaithful do not deserve to love at all. Without realizing it, Chun Sanju had firmly grasped it, with strength as if to crush. Suddenly, he came to his senses. Oh no, this knife is poisoned. If Murong's green blade was sweet like honey to him, then the night listening to spring rain that mixed in was like arsenic in honey. As soon as he realized, Murong had already swung his blade down. The spinning spring rain blade power cut through the air like wind. Even though Chun Sanju was alert and shifted his position, he was still half a beat too slow. An arm separated from the body, soaring high, the cut as smooth as a mirror. In an instant, Chun Sanju was left with only his left arm. On the other side, Murong started to sway again. After a successful strike, he became provocative again. Even with an arm severed, the bone-deep heartache still lingered in Chun Sanju's heart. He now found himself caught in a whirlpool of pure love and the greenery of betrayal. Murong would not give him a chance to breathe, continuing to gasp for air as he executed the Jingja from the 12 layers of spring rain. The attack and defense changed too swiftly, comparable to the switch between Murong's green blade and a knight listening to spring rain, catching the bystanders off guard. How could the once toyed with green blade demon suddenly sever one of Chun Sanju's arms with a single slice? By this point in the fight, Murong was also pushing himself to his physical limits, breathing like a bull, feeling the hot breath scorching his lungs. In this critical moment, Chun Sanju focused his mind, dodged the ferocious strike, and kicked Murong away. The next moment, a loud bang was heard. He crushed his own brother and, with blood on his hands, declared, "My lady, no matter what, I will love you for 10,000 years. With that, he tossed the blood from his hand, his gaze becoming resolute again. Green blade demon, this is what true love is. You don't understand love at all. Chun Sanju roared, his left hand, unskilled with a sword, grasping the Huangshan golden sword, stabbing towards Murong. Bullshit. I understand love the best, Murong retorted, raising his blade to meet the attack. He had gone through so much painful and twisted love and had finally learned true love, yet someone dared to question his understanding of love. Unforgivable. With a loud boom as the blade and sword met, the overflowing chi force roared, knocking the surrounding spectators to the ground. As the blade and sword clashed without a victor, the two men's bodies collided. With a thud, at the moment of collision between the two big men, a sound of splintering bones and flesh could be heard. The next moment, the two men shouting about love both fell. Meanwhile, the battle between Zhao Ling and Duan Yun had also reached its climax. From the man who Zhao Ling had absorbed under her skirt emitting white smoke, falling to the ground foaming at the mouth and soon dying violently, it was evident. Especially after seeing her husband crush that spot and fall together with the green blade demon. Zhao Ling's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Endless electric sword. Black lightning once again coursed into the Huangshan sword sect disciples who thought they had escaped disaster, and the rebounding electric sparks also slammed into Zhao Ling. But this endless electric sword, which had bound countless people, only made her pause for a moment and could not stop her. With a bang, a huge stone pillar inside the Chengda Hall was kicked by her dragon foot and, roaring, smashed towards Duan Yun. This hall, already with several pillars broken or collapsed, could finally no longer sustain as this huge pillar was kicked down, causing half of it to collapse. As the stone pillar approached, Duan Yun crossed his swords, intending to clamp down on it like scissors. But the pillar's force was ferocious, and the moment they touched, a potent strength surged wildly. For a moment, it was as if a shocking tidal wave was coming to pulverize him. Duan Yun endured the piercing pain in his flesh. His ears twitched, and his eyes became particularly solemn. He had perceived that behind the shattered pillar was an even more formidable dragon strength. Deadly dragon strength. Duan Yun's eyes sparkled with electricity in the blink of an eye, or rather to the bystanders. His body seemed to be covered in thick lightning, as if he were bathing in thunder. Rotate. Electromagnetic sword field 100,000 horses strong. Damn it, rotate. Without any hesitation, Duan Yun revealed one of his trump cards. The electromagnetic sword field unfolded in an instant. The air turned viscous, as if becoming tangible and heavy. The roaring stone pillars and the detaching rubble were instantly frozen in place, and behind them, the figure of sect leader's wife Zhao Ling, surrounded by dragon strength, her emerald dragon feet unstoppable, was also stalled. Thick lightning bound her like flickering chains, trapping her form as if she were mired in mud. Sword field. It's a sword field. A sword field formed of thunder and sword chi. The heavens are unjust. How can an evil and vile old demon manage to cultivate the sword? With a snap, a swordsman, who was frantically indignant, didn't finish his sentence before being struck by lightning shot out from the sword field, turning pitch black on the spot. He died quickly, his body like charcoal, and so was his face. Therefore, his face, as though charcoal, still bore the expressions of frenzy and righteous indignation, as though still decrying the heavens' injustice, accusing not a swordsman like himself, but old demon Duan, a perpetuator of great evil, for mastering such a sword field. To those discerning swordsmen, the sword field already appeared invincible, yet there were anomalies. Zhao Ling, who had refined 2 dragon essences, was one such anomaly. Everything in the revolving sword field seemed to have frozen, yet Zhao Ling had not. Although her speed was greatly reduced, she could still move. Crackling explosions echoed. The lightning that bound her shattered to pieces. The azure dragon foot stirred within the lightning, as if being refined, and the dragon roars brought forth by the chi force passed through the sword field, distinct as though the wailing of a tormented ghost. Old demon Duan, meet your end. Still within this terrifying sword field, Zhao Ling's eyes maintained absolute confidence, as well as the arrogance of one who looks down upon all beings. She is a deity. Duan Yun exhaled forcefully, just like the Murong brothers earlier, only feeling fire burning. If it must burn, let it burn. Little Qing, come out. Little Yu's flowing hair swiftly turned into swaying twin ponytails, her black dress radiating with colors where green and white met. In a breath's time, Little Yu and the Little Qing technique both completed the transformation. Smooth as silk, 1,000 strands. Heroic fire lotus. Damn it! Damn it! Blossom! Duan Yun's forehead veins popped. He roared. In the midst of the thunderous electromagnetic sword field, he appeared as though he was swallowing and spitting lightning. At the same time, amidst the lightning, a vividly bright heroic fire lotus bloomed. The approaching huge pillar was instantly engulfed by the fire lotus, turned to ash, and scattered like charred dust, while Zhao Ling's green dragon foot momentarily turned red, as if roasted. Ah! Zhao Ling let out a piercing scream, pushing the true chi of her dragon essence to the extreme, continuing to thrust forward. Both sides understood, the outcome would be decided here. The dragon foot pierced through the lightning, shattered the fire lotus, unstoppable as it smashed towards Duan Yun. It seemed as if there was nothing else in the world that could stop it. Many disciples of the Huangshan sword sect who had eaten dragon meat, Mrs. Zhao Ling's dedicated admirer Zhuang Juxian, and numerous foot fetish martial world heroes, upon seeing this moment were unspeakably enthralled. There was no foot in the world more beautiful than this. But this did not come without a cost. In her path through the lightning and heroic fire lotus, her previously flawless dragon scales began to crack, fall off, the dragon meat beneath blackening, flaking away like ashes. 1,000 heroic fire lotuses bloomed as if to incinerate everything. Yet, Zhao Ling's dragon foot still pierced through this sea of flames, and by the time it reached Duan Yun, though it was much slower, it still locked onto Duan Yun's life force, carrying an irresistible force. With a snap, Duan Yun's left hand was struck by the dragon foot. The dragon strength surged through it, his entire arm twisting and deforming. But at this moment, Duan Yun's right hand had already thrown a punch, his most ferocious punch. A heroic fire lotus clung to his fist power penetrating Zhao Ling's other leg, the one that wasn't a dragon foot. igniting it with flames, which then spawned water within the fire. That was water from Zhao Ling. Within this desperate punch, young hero Duan incorporated the flirtatious finger strength technique. Chapter 386. Astonishing Comprehension. Thunder Fire Heavenly Sword, cutting through all filth. In the eyes of countless onlookers from the martial world, this was indeed a fight worth dying for. Had this been in the past, the mere sight of Yuzhu and the two female demons engaging in a deadly battle with the injured or crippled sect leaders would have been enough to cause a sensation. And the fight of love between Green Blade Demon and Huangshan sect leader Chun Sanju was the epitome of flirtatious combat, representing the madness of love. But now, all of that had been reduced to mere side dishes. The main course was the duel between Old Demon Duan and the wife of the Huangshan sword sect leader, Zhao Ling. In the sword field filled with both thunder and fire, Old Demon Duan was first kicked by Zhao Ling's dragon foot, with his whole right arm saturated and deformed by the dragon strength. Just when everyone thought Zhao Ling had gained the upper hand and was set to secure her victory, in the next instant, her urine was struck right out of her by Old Demon Duan. The fist, filled with both anger and chivalry, smashed directly into the palm of Zhao Ling's left foot. Not only did it set her leg ablaze, but it also made her urine fly about from the impact of the flirtatious finger strength. No, it was fist power. Under the extraordinary wisdom of Duan Yun, there was no longer a distinction between fist and finger. Both sides took this opportunity to inflict injuries on each other and briefly separated. Duan Yun gritted his teeth, grabbed a bolt of lightning from within the sword field with his left hand, let it dance around his fingertips and quickly channeled it into his injured right arm. The rotating lightning clashed with the dragon's strength, neutralizing each other, and it was like an invisible hand healing the injuries from within. He was not only a young hero who slayed demons and eliminated evils, but also a highly skilled doctor. Not just in gynecology. On the other side, while spraying urine, Zhao Ling stood up, dragging her shattered left leg behind her. At the same time, a cyan light from the right dragon foot flowed into her injured left leg. She was using the power of the dragon essence to heal her injuries. Both sides were healing in their own ways, and this kind of fight-while-healing battle method was actually very rare in the martial world. Usually, only sects specializing in medical martial arts would fight like this, such as the divine doctors of the Jiangzhong sect. Many divine doctors had a reputation for dragging their enemies to death in battle, rather than killing them, which is why the big shots of the Jiangzhong sect often carried nicknames like Old Turtles. However, the healing time for Duan Yun and Zhao Ling was very short, merely a few breaths. Because it was so brief, Duan Yun's right hand only underwent minor corrections and was still unusable, while Zhao Ling's left foot, which had been reduced to showing bone, started moving again and even appeared very flexible. The power of the dragon essence was indeed extraordinary. But at this moment, Zhao Ling no longer had an easygoing expression on her face. She had never thought she would get injured since refining the dragon essence, and to her surprise it came so swiftly, and from Old Demon Duan, who she originally thought would be as simple to defeat as stepping on a stone. At the same time, the uncontrollable spattering of urine made her feel extremely humiliated. Her daughter had died because she suffered the same fate at the hands of Old Demon Duan, and the story had been widely circulated among the people of the martial world. She had sworn at that time that she would make Old Demon Duan beg for mercy on his knees, urinating uncontrollably, in order to dissipate her hatred. But unexpectedly, he hadn't urinated, and she had done so first. That shameless Old Demon Duan would indeed only study such perverted techniques. So she wanted Duan Yun to die.
Die Misa Appli.
With an upward shout, the electricity striking against the dragon's strength was bounced off, and she seemed to transform into a dragon. No, in Duan Yun's eyes, he even saw two virtual shadows of children with dragon horns appear above Zhao Ling. They were perched on her shoulders, like vengeful spirits seeking lives, utterly terrifying. At this moment, Duan Yun's whole body bristled with sweat, as his body instinctively sensed danger. Fire Fist. Heroic Fire Lotus. Damn it! Damn it! Continue to bloom. Duan Yun pushed his true chi to the limit, turning it into dense, intertwined fire threads that formed blossoming fire lotuses. A crafty smile appeared on the corner of Zhao Ling's mouth, and the same smile appeared on the two ghostly children with dragon horns perched on her shoulder. Yes, these were the dragon essences she had refined, which had now become the presence of her Dharma image. This time she kicked out with both feet, flying towards him in an attack. Though the strike seemed ordinary, a move that even the third-rate ruffians of the martial world would use when desperate, Zhao Ling's kick was anything but. It was earth-shattering. The electromagnetic sword field was originally Duan Yun's home turf. He considered himself invincible within the sword field, but he had sustained his most severe injury there, a bone-deep wound. And at that moment, the enemy unleashed even more terrifying power, enough to destroy him. With the emergence of the dragon foot power, it was like a predatory beast on the hunt, locking onto his energy flow. Duan Yun had no choice but to continue to harness the heroic fire lotus, creating a sea of fire lotuses. Boom, boom, boom. The fire lotuses were kicked apart, turning into a brilliant shower of sparks, igniting half of Chengde Hall. What did Chengde Hall do to deserve such a clash of masters? I want. Amidst this all-penetrating kick, Zhao Ling suddenly bit down hard on her lip, even drawing blood. This was because a sinister force surged straight into her mind amid her tumultuous true qi, compelling her to shout, "I want to be a hero," but she suppressed it with force. This duel in the sword field appeared brief to the bystanders, merely a couple of exchanges within no more than 10 breaths. But for Duan Yun and Zhao Ling it felt incredibly long. The situation was fraught with danger. One lapse in attention could lead to life or death. The dragon foot power approached ever closer, and the fist power roused by the kicked fire lotus burned Duan Yun, causing him intense pain. Chapter 387. At this moment, Zhao Ling seemed to have foreseen her victory. After this kick, old demon Duan would definitely explode to death. But through the gaps in the flames, she saw Duan Yun's eyes. A pair of bright eyes, untainted by any dust. Even more terrifying was that these eyes seemed to forever brim with confidence. Absolute confidence. Could a man facing death still be so confident? This man must be mad. Duan Yun was not mad. He truly was confident. No one can defeat this young hero. Extraordinary wisdom. I command you to settle all matters. In the midst of this raging thunder and flames, Duan Yun had already ordered the extraordinary wisdom to move, to settle all matters. So the extraordinary wisdom had already begun to wildly flicker. Then in the thunderfire, it found the answer. Thunder spawns fire. Fire gathers thunder. Thunder and fire breed together, transforming into a giant sword, slashing through all. In just an instant, Duan Yun's Dharma image changed behind him, with little Yu and Qing appearing at his back. If one were to say that the two shadow figures of little dragonhorn children on Zhao Ling's shoulders were her Dharma image, then Duan Yun now also had two Dharma images, even bigger than hers. Little Yu and Qing didn't usually get along, but at this moment they were in perfect harmony, one's fist power fiercely spinning, stirring up dazzling fire lotuses, while the other formed a sword technique, with the nearby thunder converging towards her. And so in this instant, Duan Yun's entire being seemed to be ablaze, bathed in the shock of thunder. Come forth, thunder fire heavenly sword. A thunder fire giant sword burst forth from Duan Yun's body. From this perspective, he seemed to be a giant sword surrounded by thunderfire, and the beautiful Qing and little Yu appeared like the sword guards on either side of the giant sword's hilt. Slash through all filth. In Duan Yun's eyes, one side was thunder, the other fire, his entire being transformed into a thunderfire great sword, thrusting forward. With a booming sound, the Saiyan dragon strength and the thunderfire heavenly sword collided, not just gathering talent manner, but the entire town shook. The electromagnetic sword field's thunder shattered. The dragon strength was dyed red, becoming a blur. Gathering talent manor's Chengde Hall was reduced to tatters, rising as a surging mushroom cloud. The onlookers from the martial world in the front, if they weren't shaken to death on the spot, had their flesh torn and bones shattered, either dead or wounded. Even in the terrifying center of the blast, the Huangshan golden sword clutched in Duan Yun's left hand showed signs of melting. But Duan Yun wasn't set ablaze, all because at the moment of drawing the sword, both Qing and Little Yu clung tightly to him, as if he were inside the core of a mecha, avoiding the majority of the damage. In the billowing dust, slowly two figures emerged that struck terror into the hearts of people. One standing, the other lying down. The one standing was Duan Yun, holding the Huangshan golden sword dripping with gold liquid. The one lying down was Zhao Ling, her cyan dragon feet turned to a twisted, reddish color, resembling a braised giant chicken claw. Even more horrifying was that beside her leg was a thing like a white rope, stuck with blood and flesh. Yes, it was a tendon. A dragon tendon. With this single thunder fire sword strike, Duan Yun's extraordinary wisdom had flickered, reprising the scene in his dream where he, as Neza, extracted the dragon's tendon. What he could do in his dreams, he could do in reality. Thus, Zhao Ling, who considered herself invincible, had fallen, her dragon tendon plucked out. Zhao Ling's originally flawless skin was now half burnt black, half red. She lay on the ground, struggling, her face in agony. No, it's impossible. It must be fake. The Dharma image behind Duan Yun had already dissipated, and in that fleeting moment, one could see by the naked eye that both Qing and Little Yu also appeared utterly exhausted, as if overburdened. Even the highest-end mecha operated this way would need to smoke and shut down. Steam rising from his head, Duan Yun panted heavily, walking past under everyone's gaze. Facing the unwilling to believe Zhao Ling, he bent down to pick up her companion's sword. Another Huangshan golden sword. In the next instant, he kicked out, hitting right at Zhao Ling's abdomen. Ugh! As Zhao Ling spewed blood, urine also sprayed out. Hence the golden sword was instantaneously stained. Duan Yun, watching this scene, said, "Good sword, good urine." The tragedy of the Huangshan heroine reemerges in the martial world, and Zhao Ling was about to roll her eyes. In anger, even after consuming 2 dragon essences and cultivating a divine skill, she didn't rush to torture old demon Duan to death, because a good meal is worth waiting for. She wanted to find the right time, the right place, to torture him well in front of everyone. Even in death, Duan Yun would die a most humiliating and restless death, to address her anger over losing her daughter, to let her glory as the martial arts alliance hierarch shine throughout the world. But why did it come to this? This damn Tao of heaven. Why must evil outstretch good by a foot for every cubit the Tao is high? At this moment, those who felt the sky had collapsed included the manor master Zhuang Juxian, the collapsed and helpless Chen Sanju, the disciples fantasizing about killing and robbing Zhao Ling, and the countless Jianghu people who considered themselves righteous. Especially among the crowd, those bloodthirsty storytellers who had always been advocating Zhao Ling as the future martial arts alliance hierarch. Some had their eyes split apart, bleeding. For them, this was simply the darkest moment of the martial world. The future leader of the martial world, who was to cleanse all evil, the paragon of righteousness, was now beaten to the ground by old demon Duan, with her urine unceasing. Damn it, the spine of the martial world's righteous path was broken. The next moment, a bloodthirsty storyteller had already moved from split-eye rage to bleeding from the eyes, because Duan Yun had picked up Zhao Ling in one motion, making her kneel before him. And so, Zhao Ling knelt before Duan Yun in humiliation, leaking. At this moment, Duan Yun waved his hand, and an endless electric sword shot into a pile of fallen bodies. Chapter 388. That was a disciple of the Huangshan sword sect just now, overturned by the endless electric sword. The next instant, a scream resounded. From the corpses, 7 or 8 people suddenly sprang out. Everyone realized at once that these disciples of the Huangshan sword sect were pretending to be dead. At this moment, smoke billowed from Duan Yun's head as he loudly recited, "Of the Huangshan 6 heroes, the only young hero was rendered childless and met his demise at the hands of old demon Duan. The remaining 5 female heroes, fair-skinned and beautiful, pitiable and adorable, Not only were they killed by old demon Duan, but even their bodies were not spared. He stripped them bare to expose their smooth bodies and had them bound tightly with ropes to squeeze their flesh, creating the most licentious scenes. What's more, he ordered a group of musicians to play and chant lewd songs and foul language, subjecting them to the most thorough humiliation. As he spoke, he turned to look at these remaining disciples of the Huangshan sword sect, saying, "This young hero Duan has never done such a thing, yet the so-called righteous storyteller insists on saying so, which is why this young hero Duan will have you do exactly that. After you've done it, you can live. If you do it poorly, death will not come easily." Duan Yun looked at these people like King Yen passing judgment. These disciples of the Huangshan sword sect who had survived under the endless electric sword were mostly those who had previously devoured dragon meat and dragon blood. At first, they had an air of preferring death to submission, but the next moment, someone said, "I will sing. I'm a musician." As soon as these words were uttered, someone immediately said, "I'll do the binding. I used to work in a brothel." In no time, these 8 disciples from the Huangshan sword sect each took up their role. Indeed, their recent feigning of death had already proved they were the sort who feared death and coveted life. How could they possibly have any spine before Duan Yun, the living Yama? Consequently, Zhao Ling, just as the storyteller had described, was bound and squeezed by these newly acquired disciples, swaying as she was lifted, while others blew tunes and recited verses filled with obscenities. "You betray and annihilate your lineage. You will not die a good death. Old demon Duan. Even as a ghost, I won't let you off. I want you to spend your life wetting yourself. Worse than pigs and dogs. Heaven has no eyes." Zhao Ling, suffering extreme humiliation, cursed almost to the point of madness. At almost the same time, several bloodthirsty storytellers watching this scene bled from all 7 orifices. One dropped dead on the spot. They came here intending to gather material, to highly praise the one who would cleanse the evil, the first to use old demon Duan as a banner for the martial arts alliance hierarch. Anyone who bore a grudge against old demon Duan was a friend, a subject of their praise. Zhao Ling was undoubtedly the biggest among them. Yet before she could assume the position of the martial arts alliance hierarch, Duan Yun had reduced her to this state. Thieving heavens! Simply blind. The one who died of anger on the spot was the same person who had earlier described Duan Yun's ultimate humiliation of the Huangshan 6 swords, the very words Duan Yun had just repeated. Who could have imagined these surviving disciples from the Huangshan sword sect would disregard righteousness, betray and annihilate their master, and inflict such vile humiliation on Zhao Ling, the female hero they had long praised. Therefore, he died of rage. The next moment, Duan Yun's hand was on top of Zhao Ling's head. Supported by the dragon essence, Zhao Ling's cursing suddenly stopped, and she couldn't help but scream, "I want to be great!" Her voice abruptly ceased, for at that very instant, she used all her strength to tear out her own tongue to stop herself from crying out. Afterward, she stared at Duan Yun with poisonous hatred and garbled out a, "You will not die a good death." And then she perished violently. After some time had passed, the 8 disciples from the Huangshan sword sect kneeled in front of Duan Yun. The leader said, "Young hero Duan, we have done everything you told us." Duan Yun nodded and said, "Well done. Beiming divine skill." In just an instant, the 8 disciples were absorbed into Duan Yun's body, their faces blurring. Why? As Duan Yun continued to absorb, he replied righteously, "Even though this mad woman was evil, she was still your master. For committing such acts, no better than pigs and dogs, it is extreme evil, unworthy of life in this world. Old demon Duan, you will not die a good death. You're a liar. You will die a violent death. I want to be a hero. I want to be a hero. I want to be a hero." The shouting and cursing of the 8 people stopped at once, replaced by this loud declaration, like chanting a slogan. Indeed, the evil demon is vanquished, and heroic spirit fills heaven and earth. Justice endures. The spirit of heroism remains alive. Chapter 389. Being a hero is awesome. 8 Huangshan sword sect disciples who had once feasted on dragon meat and drunk dragon blood were absorbed by Duan Yun. While continuously shrieking, "I want to be a hero!" their eyes rolled back, and they were slain by the breaking body sword energy overflowing from Duan Yun. After falling to the ground, their bodies continued writhing and contorting, exuding a malevolence. Indeed, they were clearly dead, with all of them pierced through the forehead by sword chi, yet their bodies still trembled and wriggled, just like a beheaded snake, whose body still coils. Suddenly, Duan Yun raised his hand, and a stream of true chi mixed with blood shot out. Huangshan sect leader Chun Sanju had just been struggling to go see the corpse of his wife, whom he had loved for 10,000 years, when he was struck in the abdomen by this stream of true chi. With a wah sound, Chun Sanju spat out a mouthful of blood, his pupils rapidly dilating. He didn't even get a clear view of his wife's body before he died. His death was quite abrupt. You should know that the strike of true chi that hit him wasn't fatal, nor was its power extraordinarily remarkable. When Murong brothers checked his abdomen, they found that the area hit had been completely pulverized. What kind of true chi was this? Even deadly poison couldn't produce such an exaggerated effect. Duan Yun wiped the blood from his fingertips, also finding it exaggerated. When he had just absorbed the true chi of these 8 people, initially he felt nothing unusual, but midway, he suddenly discovered that their true chi carried with it an expanding force, as if alive, seeking to erode his flesh. You should know that since mastering the Biming divine skill, young hero Duan has absorbed the true chi of hundreds if not thousands of people, both weak and strong, but had never encountered such a phenomenon. Thus, he did not hesitate to activate the Jade Sword Finger, and just like how he previously ejected wine from his fingertips, he forced out the true chi along with the blood. Who would have thought that this formidable power inadvertently bestowed Chen Sanju with a good death? Could it be related to the Azure Dragon? Duan Yun couldn't help but analyze. That feeling of erosion was indeed somewhat similar to the dead mad woman Zhao's dragon strength. Not good. I have to do it while it's fresh. Duan Yun extended his hand, pulled over Chan Sanju's body, lopped off the abdomen that was pierced by the sword chi finger, and voraciously absorbed the true chi. After such a fierce battle, Duan Yun not only sustained unprecedented severe injuries, but his true chi and thunder energy were also greatly depleted, almost exhausted, making it crucial to replenish in time for the sake of physical and mental health. And Chan Sanju, as the Huangshan sword sect leader, even though already dead with only the upper half of his body remaining, as long as the dantian within the body was still warm, was excellent material for absorption. Duan Yun meticulously absorbed the true chi within Chan Sanju's body. Indeed, if he didn't absorb promptly once the body cooled, the true chi would disperse. He, nameless young hero, despised wastefulness. Duan Yun absorbed the true chi and glanced over at Murong brothers lying on the ground. It was evident that Murong brothers had sustained considerable injuries. The most troublesome were the internal wounds left behind by the 2 lovers' desperate and reckless fight for love. This was also why he had not stood up till now. Duan Yun casually placed Chan Sanju's body on his abdomen to continue absorbing, then extended his free left hand, with fingertip thunder emerging from his fingertips, and placed it on Murong brothers' shoulder. Fingertip thunder, along with true chi, entered Murong brothers' body, beginning the treatment for his injuries. Saying it was treatment, in truth, was only to help him clear the extremely disordered meridians. The follow-up healing still depended on himself. After all, Duan Yun's own true chi was scarce, almost entirely dependent on what he was currently absorbing from Chun Sanju. Thus, in the eyes of the onlookers, Duan Yun was on one hand absorbing true chi from Chan Sanju's body through his belly, and on the other, releasing thunder true chi to heal Murong brothers, creating a rather strange scene. All of a sudden, Chan Sanju's bisected corpse suddenly said, "I want to be a hero." At this declaration, quite a few of the Jianghu people who considered themselves fearless urinated on the spot in fright. A dead person, a half-bodied corpse suddenly screaming, "I want to be a hero," was enough to scare even the bloodthirsty spectators who thought they were fearless. An instinctive fear. Old demon Duan doesn't even spare corpses. Could he really be like the legendary Mountain King, turning dead people into evil creatures like tiger ghosts? With a push from his belly, Chan Sanju's body plopped to the ground. Done absorbing, no longer useful. With Duan Yun's help, Murong brothers' exceedingly chaotic meridians were finally alleviated, and he struggled to his feet. At this time, Shen Ying and Feng Linger, covered in blood, hurried back from outside. "Where did you two just run off to?" Murong brothers asked. "A baldy who was particularly good at running. We chased him for 10 miles outside the villa before we killed him," Shen Ying explained. Murong brothers' mouth twitched as he said, "You chased that far?" Feng Linger couldn't help but question. "When cutting weeds, you need to remove the roots. Don't you know how to be a hero?" Murong brothers felt somewhat indignant. He, Murong, was only slightly inferior to the nameless young hero. How could he be worse than these juniors? However, he was naturally unable to provoke Feng Linger. So he said, "Nearly finished killing, we should leave." Although he could barely stand and move now, his situation was not good. An injured tiger is easily targeted by a pack of wolves, so he wanted to leave as soon as possible. Feng Linger looked at Duan Yun's injured right hand with concern, asking, "Are you sure you're okay?" Duan Yun said with a pained expression, "The injury is severe. It would take at least half a month to recover." Feng Linger and Shen Ying quickly supported him from his left and right and led him out. Murong brothers followed with difficulty. Looking at Duan Yun, who was being embraced from both sides, couldn't help but comment, "Have you considered the feelings of those who are more seriously injured?" "Wait a moment." Suddenly, Duan Yun spoke. Feng Linger and Shen Ying thought his injury had worsened and hurriedly asked, "What's wrong?" Chapter 390. "Haven't searched the bodies yet," Duan Yun stated earnestly. "Ah? Ah? Shen Ying and the others were all somewhat baffled. Duan Yun continued, "The first time I killed someone, I didn't search the body and regretted it for a long time. Take all the spoils of war, otherwise this trip is in vain." So, Shen Ying and Feng Linger picked up various items like the Huangshan golden sword, sect leader's jade pendant around them, and only then did they help Duan Yun onto the carriage. Yes, the carriage and horses Duan Yun had carried in earlier were still there. Because it was known to be old demon Duan's carriage, even amidst the earlier chaos, no one dared to touch it. Who would want the risk of accidentally hurting old demon Duan's horse and being killed, family and all? Looking at Duan Yun being helped onto the carriage, the Murong brothers also looked like they were about to collapse, when a bloodthirsty storyteller quietly stirred them up. "Old demon is down now. If we attack at this moment, we have a good chance to win." A middle-aged woman nearby couldn't help but retort, "Are you an idiot? With the 6 sects wiped out, we, the likes like us, go against Duan to become enemies with the nameless young hero." "That's right. I'm just here to watch the show. The show's over, and now you want me to fight to the death? You're either a fool or a bad seed. You guys have no sense of the righteous path at all," the bloodthirsty storyteller countered. "Talking like that, I say you're the bad seed. Beat him up. Humph. Look at that. Don't hold back anymore. Let this guy taste the hospitality of the big dog gang." At this time, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers were already lying inside the carriage, with Feng Linger driving and Shen Ying sitting on the roof, surveying the surroundings. In fact, the 4 of them could feel it too. Some people saw that they were injured. Those not injured had huge true chi depletion, so they were getting ideas. Ahead, the crowd was still there, just as crowded, just as jammed. Last time, it was Duan Yun carrying the horse and cart in, so what about this time? Shen Ying was already planning to carry the cart herself when at that moment, Duan Yun lifted the carriage curtain, revealing his handsome visage. "Make way for the nameless giant hero." Almost at the same time, someone in the front suddenly shouted out loud. There were many bloodthirsty spectators here who were fearless, but even more were martial world folks who came for the excitement. They feared death. After all, the excitement was over, and the thrill-seeking crowd naturally wasn't so bloodthirsty anymore, naturally wanting to live. The crowd involuntarily parted to make way for them. "Nameless giant hero, have a safe journey." The giant Earth Gang bows in unison to send off the 4 heroes of Yuju. Along the way, the local giant earth gang stood on both sides, bowing and greeting. Nameless giant hero, my name is Yishaochai. I, too, want to be a hero like you in the future, shouted a kid with a scar on his face, chasing after the carriage. Clouds parted and the sun came out, casting its light on the road. Under such a send-off, Duan Yun and company's carriage moved forward. Morong brothers lying in the carriage murmured, "You see, it's good to be a hero. No traffic jams for heroes." Hearing this, all four of them laughed. They laughed heartily. Indeed, it's good to be a hero. At that moment, the bloodthirsty storyteller, who was now covered in burly men, watched with eyes filled with blood and tears as Duan Yun and the others left amidst the cheers, lamenting. The heavens are blind, calamities remain for 1,000 years. What, your eyes still haven't opened? Brothers, this restless one wants his eyes opened. So let's open them wide for him. Ah! No, don't! Ah! Screams echoed alongside tearing sounds, and the nearby area suddenly had its own show to watch, filling with a merry atmosphere. In the swaying carriage, Duan Yun felt especially drowsy, falling asleep the moment he closed his eyes. He didn't know how long he slept for, only that it was a very deep, very sweet sleep. Never had he experienced sleep so profound, so delightful. During his slumber, new true qi slowly began to form in his dantian, flowing through his body's meridians, completing the cycle, nourishing his body. The depletion from this battle was undoubtedly immense. His meridians like a dry riverbed. When Duan Yun woke up, the carriage was parked by a lakeside. The Morong brothers were still sound asleep, while Feng Linger and Shining were fishing. Seeing him come out, Feng Linger couldn't help but say, "You've finally woken up." Duan Yun looked at the sky and said, "How long have I been asleep?" 3 days, a full 3 days and nights, Shining replied. Sleeping continuously for 3 days, Duan Yun had never experienced such a long, deep, and satisfying sleep before. "Are you feeling better?" Feng Linger asked with concern. Duan Yun nodded and said, "Much better. When did you guys get here?" Feng Linger replied, "Last night. We saw there was a lake here, and since none of you were waking up anytime soon, we decided to stop." Duan Yun glanced at the fish basket and said, "So you're telling me that you've been fishing for almost a whole day and night and only caught these 2 carp?" Shining and Feng Linger couldn't help blushing upon hearing this. Shining couldn't help but say, "It's because this new fishing rod is awkward to use." "That's right, and the bait isn't very good either. If we had another kind, we'd definitely have caught a big fish by now." Duan Yun couldn't muster the energy to retort and said, "Then could you switch to a smoother fishing rod? Or better bait any faster?" "Ah?" Feng Linger and Shen Ying responded somewhat puzzled. "I'm really hungry," Duan Yun confessed honestly. At that moment, Feng Linger looked towards Shen Ying and said, "Let's stick to the old routine. I did it last time, so it's your turn now." Shen Ying couldn't help but look at Duan Yun and said, "Can you look away for a moment?" "Look away? Why?" Duan Yun was puzzled. "I just don't want you to see. Do you still want to eat fish or not?" Shen Ying said with a blushing face. "All right then." Duan Yun could only crawl back into the carriage. Remember, no peeking. After that, there was the sound of splashing water going boom, boom, boom. Duan Yun didn't need to see to know. Shen Ying was using fist power to blast the fish. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh. Maybe not letting him see her blasting fish was the last shred of dignity she had as an angler. It must be said, although Shen Ying's fishing skills weren't much, her skill in blasting fish was unparalleled. In less than 15 minutes, the fish basket was nearly full with the fish she had blasted. Next, Feng Linger began cleaning the fish with her sword, while Shen Ying went to gather plenty of firewood, preparing to roast fish. Carp, 3 fingers wide, were put in a pot to make soup, while the larger blackfish were skewered on branches and placed over the fire to roast. 2 bonfires were lit, both cooking fish, yet each emitting a completely different savory fragrance. The carp soup had turned milky white, and Duan Yun couldn't resist ladling some into a bowl first. With one sip, He felt the soup's outstanding freshness and rich flavor, lingering on his tongue and leaving a lasting taste. There's a saying that if someone's been starving for days and nights, even a cold steamed bun would taste like a delicacy, endlessly satisfying. And he had been hungry for days and nights, but what he got to eat was not a cold steamed bun, but steaming hot, delicious fish. As soon as he had a bowl of fish soup from one bonfire, the roasted fish from the other was almost ready. Shining handed him the first roasted blackfish. The blackfish had been roasted to a golden yellow, with oil bubbling on the surface, mixed with seasonings like salt and chili powder. Duan Yun didn't care if it was hot or not. He bit down and felt as if he had ascended to heaven. What is a divine life? This is the divine life. Beside him were two beautiful female heroes, and in front of him 2 bonfires, one boiling fish soup and the other roasting fish. It would be perfect if there was some wine at this moment. As if Shining had already read his mind, she rummaged through the carriage and took out a jar of wine. Afterward, the 2 women and 1 man began to drink and eat meat by the lakeside. Duan Yun ate a lot and drank his fair share. Soon, the ground was littered with fish bones, and the jar of wine was more than half empty. The 3 chatted happily, recalling amusing events from the past and present as they wined and dined. The bright moon hung in the sky, reflecting off the rosy cheeks of the 3. For a moment, Duan Yun thought the moonlight was beautiful. Under the moonlight, with their cheeks flushed and chatting and laughing, Shining and Feng Linger were also beautiful. It was as if he had realized the long fantasized scenes from martial arts novels, wandering the martial world with a sword, accompanied by beautiful ladies. This world is crazy and abnormal, but he possessed beauty. In any case, the luck of a young hero can't be too bad. Chapter 391. This is the gold content of a hero's teeth. By Lake, beside the bonfire, Duan Yun and Feng Linger, Shining were eating and drinking under the moonlight, making a ruckus and having a great time. But suddenly, Shining stopped laughing. Right after, Feng Linger also stopped laughing. Then, Duan Yun turned his head and saw the Murong brothers standing stupidly by the carriage, staring blankly. "What's up?" Duan Yun mocked. The guy was standing there like he was possessed. "Damn it! You're drinking and feasting without inviting me? Don't you know I'm so hungry I could eat a whole cow?" The Murong brothers complained with a resentful face. Feng Linger responded, "We saw you sleeping soundly and didn't want to disturb you." Duan Yun put on the guise of a professional doctor and said, "Indeed, you're wounded and should be resting." Shining nodded. "We're not stopping you from eating and drinking. Look, we saved some for you." "Really?" The Murong brothers hurried over, looking at the fish bones on the ground but no fish. He picked up the wine jar that was light and void of wine, and said, "Where is what you've saved for me?" Shining was taken aback. She remembered there was some left, but they ate it all by accident and the wine was gone too. So Shining couldn't help but say to the Murong brothers, "If you wanted to eat, why didn't you say so earlier?" "Yeah, why didn't you say so earlier?" Feng Linger echoed. The Murong brothers gasped and mocked. "How could I say it earlier when I was asleep?" Feng Linger nodded. "Right, you not saying it earlier is your problem? What's it got to do with me?" Shining followed. "Look at Duan Yun. Why is it that though he too was asleep, he woke up at just the right time, but your timing is always off?" The Murong brothers were once again shocked. "My timing is off? Let's go. I'm going home." The Murong brothers grumbled. Duan Yun puzzled. "You're not eating? No hair left. What's there to eat? I'm already full from your nonsense." The Murong brothers said with a heartbroken expression. That's right, only Ning Qing truly cared about him. These people were no good. Shining said, Okay, it's just fish, right? I'll get you 2 more. The more the Murong brothers thought, the angrier he got. 2? You think you can get rid of me with 2? I won't settle for less than 4. And they better be big ones, the Murong brothers added. In the end, the Murong brothers were appeased by 4 grilled fish and joined in the laughter. Anyway, he was very good at finding ways to climb down the ladder with dignity. At this moment, Duan Yun's fingertips flashed with thunder, channeled into his injured right arm. This was his most severe injury to date, truly bone deep. Feng Linger couldn't help but express concern. "How's your injury?" Duan Yun, while treating himself, said, "Very serious. Unprecedentedly serious. I was optimistic before." Upon hearing this, everyone turned solemn. The Murong brothers couldn't help but say, "Will your hand be disabled?" Duan Yun shook his head. "That won't happen, but even with my supreme gynecology skills, daily treatment will probably still take half a month for full recovery. Truly a rare serious injury in my life." The Murong brothers? Feng Linger? Shen Ying? Is that even human language? You've just killed a martial arts alliance hierarch who had refined 2 dragon essences and slaughtered 7 sex elites. And you're saying your injury is very serious, needing half a month to fully recover. Putting these sentences together gives a strange feeling. At this point, as Duan Yun was undergoing electrotherapy, he said seriously, "That's not right. What's wrong now?" Shen Ying and the others asked with concern. "I feel that if I treat this arm daily, stimulating its meridians and flesh, making it adapt, it might end up even more agile than before the injury," Duan Yun explained earnestly. "I'm going to sleep." "Me too." With that said, Shen Ying and Feng Linger didn't want to deal with him anymore. But only the good brother, the Murong brothers, looked expectant. "You mean it could become more agile? How about you give me a bit of that treatment too?" Duan Yun shook his head. "Nope. Why not?" the Murong brothers challenged. "My electricity is running low, only enough for my own use," Duan Yun explained. "The last major recharge was during the destruction of the Thunder God Old Mother sect, and after that, several electromagnetic sword fields were released, so now there's not enough electricity. He's currently using demon electricity that he generates himself. Compared to heavenly thunder charge, this efficiency of generating electricity himself is still too low. Temporarily? So will there be enough in the future?" The Murong brothers pressed on. He really wanted to receive Duan Yun's electrotherapy. Who wouldn't want their hands, even their fingertips, to be more agile? There are so many benefits to that. Duan Yun answered, "Probably not until there's thunder." The Murong brothers raised an eyebrow. "Doesn't that mean waiting until spring or summer?" "Yes. I'm not the thunder god. Thunder doesn't strike just because I say so. I'm also going to bed." With that, the Murong brothers lost interest in him and walked away. But in the middle of the night, both men were awake, standing there practicing with their swords, absorbing the moonlight. Moonlight, nourishing yin and strengthening yang, aids injury recovery. Unbeknownst to observers, from behind they might have thought the two were messing about by the water. Several days later, Duan Yun and the group had arrived near Wangchun City. This time they had a rewarding haul, so the 4 decided to have a good stroll and deal with the spoils of battle they had picked up from the corpses. The act of chivalry yielded an undeniable wealth, with nearly 20 high-quality weapons seized. Shen Ying and Feng Linger, being old hands in the martial world and daughters of prominent families, had high standards and few things caught their eyes. With so many weapons, even though the Murong brothers had the idea to wield 4 knives at once, they still wouldn't need so many. Chapter 392. Wangchun City is the most suitable. You see, not many discerning shopkeepers would accept these things. Good weapons often have famous origins, and not only are famous Jianghu people difficult to provoke, but they also have many friends in the martial world. Even if such a person dies, their weapons usually still bring trouble, considered hot goods, in the Jianghu that ordinary shops really can't stomach. However, as a city managed by Mo sect, Wangchun City can swallow these hot goods, especially the hotter they are, the more it wants them. Just like when Duan Yun previously used the Thunder God and Mother sect's Thunder Madman's Dark Iron Signet for sword casting, ordinary shopkeepers really dare not entertain such a client. The store where Duan Yun was going to dispose of his loot was naturally that one. Previously, the shopkeeper wanted to pawn his lady to her. In the end, the shopkeeper died, and the lady willingly came to be pawned to him, but it did not end up being pawned, that one. The reputable forge store. Even outside Wangchun City, Many people know that the reputable forge store is a gold-lettered signboard. As soon as Duan Yun and his people entered, the reputable forge store's proprietress, also known as the sweet lady who smiles sweetly, smiled. After her husband's death, she seems to smile sweeter, giving a sense of luster to her entire being. Seeing this sweet smile, Duan Yun remained calm, while Murong brothers were somewhat unsettled, and Feng Linger and Shining had somewhat gloomy faces. It's this flirtatious woman again. At such a time, if you let Murong brothers do business, it would definitely be like slaughtering pigs. So he was stripped of the right to negotiate. When Duan Yun took out the spoils of war one by one, even the sweet lady, now the big shopkeeper of the reputable forge store, still felt them scalding. The reputable forge store can swallow any kind of goods, according to its peers. This is also why the reputable forge store gets bigger and richer. After all, the greater the risk, the higher the benefits. And the reputable forge store can handle these hot items because there's a terrifying MO sect backing it. But the batch of goods in front of them is not only hot, but also quite mixed, evidently coming from various sect personalities. No small personalities. Even those Huangshan swords alone are enough to cause headaches. Sweet lady, holding a fine Huangshan golden sword, said, "Forgive me for my boldness. May I ask if this is the Huangshan sword sect's golden sword?" Feng Linger sarcastically said, "Not even recognizing a Huangshan golden sword, and you still run a shop?" Sweet lady didn't get angry but inspected the golden sword carefully, saying, "May I ask, which elders is it?" Feng Linger continued to mock. "It belongs to sect leader Chan Sanju. Don't you recognize that sect leader's jade sword tassel?" Hearing this answer, the sweet lady still smiled, but the sweetness was gone, even somewhat parched. She had noticed this detail long ago but found it impossible. She couldn't help but doubt it was a fake. But no matter how she looked, she couldn't find any sign of fakery. Thus she ventured to ask, "How could Huangshan sword sect's sect leader's golden sword be here? Even if stolen, isn't the loot a bit too blatant? Even if the Huangshan sword sect hasn't acquired those 2 dragon essences, and the sect leader's wife hasn't yet aspired to become the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch, this Huangshan golden sword is still something nobody dares to handle. Indeed, the reputable forge store wouldn't dare to either. The sword of a sect master is a trouble magnet for whoever holds it, especially for the currently thriving Huangshan sword sect. What about this dark iron sword?" Sweet lady picked up the stoutest dark iron sword, asking, "That's the master sword, Iron Eagle, from Iron Sword Sect, given to the young master of Iron Sword Sect years ago." At this moment, Murong brothers, in order to demonstrate their extensive knowledge, said, "Could this be?" "Yes, this is indeed the Iron Eagle." By this time, the sweet lady could not smile anymore, because she had figured out that after the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch Zhaoling's sect leader's wife invited 6 sects to hold the Martial Arts Conference at Gathering Talent Manor, these superior weapons were from these 7 sects. Who has such audacity to steal the divine weapons of 7 sects all at once? Even legendary thieves like Thief Saint Bai Yutong and Thief Commander Chu Tianqing. To accomplish such a feat would not be easy, especially considering these characters have long since retired and stopped engaging in such deeds. Could it be they're feeling restless and have returned to the martial world? But who could deal with such goods? Sweet lady now suspected that Duan Yun might be either the Thief Commander or Thief Saint, as both are exceptionally skilled in disguise, and supposedly, even with their disguises, due to their image, they usually appear as handsome men. For all these years, only rumors about Thief Saint Bai Yutong being bald have circulated, but many still believe they maintain a dashing appearance. So it is with the martial world. Once you become a legend and then stay out of the public eye, you remain the most formidable indeterminately. Duan Yun and his companions clearly saw Sweet Lady's dilemma, and Murong brothers couldn't help saying, "Madam, rest assured, even if these sects are looking for trouble, I'm afraid they are more inclined but powerless." Seeing Sweet Lady still perplexed, he couldn't help but add, "Doesn't the madam know what happened at the martial arts conference?" While saying this, he couldn't help but puff up his chest. You see, after this martial arts conference, Murong young master, will also gain fame. Although still slightly overshadowed by Duan Yun, the nameless young hero, his presence was felt. My apologies, gentlemen. I need to excuse myself for a moment. Sweet lady retreated. The four knew what she was up to. About the time it takes for 2 sticks of incense to burn, Sweet lady returned. Chapter 393. Her face still bore the customary sweet smile, yet the appearance of a young wife exuded girlish charm, yet one could tell she had been anxious prior. News from the martial arts assembly always took time to spread, especially this time, as the bloodthirsty storytellers who loved to disseminate such news suddenly turned mute. But to obtain any information, Mo sect always had their ways. Seeing Duan Yun and the 3 others, Sweet lady nervously asked, "May I dare to ask if you 4 are the Yuju for heroes?" Previously, she was somewhat displeased with Shining and Feng Linger, these 2 glamorous vixens, but now she was full of reverence. Shining couldn't help but say, "Us? Famous as the Yuju 4 heroes? We are merely assisting with some affairs on behalf of the Yuju 4 heroes. Lady, can we accept this batch of goods?" Sweat appeared on Sweet lady's forehead. After hesitating for a while, she gritted her teeth and said, "We can." She had just received news that during the martial arts assembly, Zhao Ling, sect leader's wife of the Huangshan sword sect, had not even secured the position of alliance hierarch to launch the demon purge before the Yuju 4 fiends appeared at her doorstep. Led by old demon Duan, the Yuju 4 fiends were brutally merciless. Even Zhao Ling, who had refined 2 pieces of dragon essence, was beaten by old demon Duan until she wet herself and died in utter humiliation. It was said that only half of sect leader Chan Sanju's body was left, and he was forced by old demon Duan to declare, "I want to be a hero," before dying. Even just hearing these rumors, especially the phrase, "I want to be a hero," made her feel like urinating. This was simply a martial world horror story. And 6 sect leaders who attended the martial arts assembly along with their elites were almost completely slaughtered by the Yuju 4 fiends. It's fair to say that the 7 sects, led by the Huangshan sword sect, even if not disbanded, were nearly out of play. Much like how the shopkeeper of the Iron Sword sect had avoided disaster by not attending, but their young master along with a group of elites were killed, which was a huge blow. Mainly because they had offended old demon Duan and the Yuju 4 fiends. Even the sect leader of the Iron Sword sect would probably have to flee and live incognito from now on. This was because everyone in the martial world knew that old demon Duan was petty and liked slaughtering entire families, while Green Saber Demon enjoyed subjecting people to mental and physical humiliation. Since these 7 sects were nearly annihilated and in disarray, the goods that were initially hot potatoes were not so anymore. And most crucially, even if those present were merely friends of the Yuju 4 fiends, could you dare refuse them? With the strength of Mo sect, they might not fear the Yuju 4 fiends, but she was terrified. After all, she was just a pawn of Mo sect. While it wasn't easy for the Yuju 4 fiends to tackle Mo sect, targeting her, a mere shopkeeper, to kill her, and tormented and humiliated in old demon Duan's dungeon was all too easy. Moreover, Mo sect was in business and always understood how to read the situation. Thus, these goods had to be accepted, and for a high price. Gentlemen, does this amount seem acceptable to you? In 2 days, the great furnace will definitely pay in full. If not, Sweet lady, instinctively wanting to offer herself as collateral to the handsome Duan Yun, thought the prospect too terrifying and hesitated. But seeing Duan Yun's handsome face, she clenched her legs as if resolving herself again, then gritted her teeth and said, "If not, then," just then, Duan Yun waved his hand and said, "We are all acquaintances here. We trust Great Furnace's reputation." Yes, he had decided. If Great Furnace dared to breach trust, if it dared to covet someone like him for silver, it would definitely be an unbelievably greedy and deceitful merchant. In this martial world, a deceitful merchant daring enough to engage in such greed must be ruthlessly harmful and lethal. As long as he secured evidence confirming this, wouldn't it be just for a righteous young hero like him to slay such a merchant's family, seizing all ill-gotten wealth? Chapter 394. Even if it involves deception and murder, one must learn to innovate like an old demon. Due to the exorbitant price of these hot goods, Big Furnace could only pay 30% as a deposit for now, with the remainder to be fully paid and delivered tomorrow. This could be said to be the greatest sincerity Big Furnace has shown, as well as the greatest respect for the Yuju for heroes. After receiving the whole 5,000 taels of silver notes, Duan Yun and the others stood within the bustling Wangchun city, suddenly feeling a strong desire to spend that silver. Wangchun city at this time was also very lively, highly suitable for spending silver. Could be said that Wangchun city was originally the best place to spend silver. The four of them divided the silver notes and prepared to splurge. After all, after performing heroic deeds of valiance, they too should enjoy the finer things. However, the four of them did not go separate ways, particularly Fenglinger and Shining, who always stuck with Duan Yun. At a glance, this made Duan Yun seem as if he was strolling with his dainty wife and beautiful concubines, while the Murong brothers trailed behind like attendants. The Murong brothers were a bit annoyed by this. But, as the saying goes, a man relies on his clothes as a horse relies on its saddle. So the Murong brothers quickly visited a rather luxurious ready-made clothing store and spent a great deal of money on an elaborate robe. It was a purple robe, interwoven with gold and silver threads forming flower patterns, looking quite opulent. Thus, the Murong brothers successfully transformed from attendants to housekeepers. At that moment, a burst of clamor suddenly erupted ahead. "Please let me gamble! Let me gamble!" A middle-aged man with bloodshot eyes was thrown out by two burly men. "I've even pawned my wife to you. Just let me gamble one more time. Please. I'm sure to turn my luck this round." Clearly, this was a gambler who had lost even his wife. The big man on the left sneered. "You said it yourself, you've pawned your wife. What else is left to pawn?" The big man on the right laughed. "Qingchao Hall is supposedly collecting eggs. Now that you don't have your wife anymore, you might as well pawn yourself." "Ah? Even eggs are wanted." The middle-aged man hesitated, but without waiting long, another person was thrown out. This time it was a woman, her clothes disheveled, fixing a fierce gaze on the gambling den, and she snarled, "Just you wait. I'll be back after I sell myself. Who wants a prostitute? Team up for dual service. Group discount for triples." The woman originally thought to approach the handsome Duan Yun, but upon seeing Shin Ying and Fenglinger beside him, her expression shifted, and she walked away. Although the woman had some beauty, she paled in comparison to Fenglinger and Shin Ying. And she didn't approach the Murong brothers either. Not because they were average-looking, but because she was in a hurry for money and knew that a housekeeper doesn't get many chances to indulge beside the young master. She had to use her time wisely. As the woman shouted her intentions to sell herself, another rattled old man was being ushered out of the brothel. The old man looked at the girls who were still scantily clad in the brothel despite the deep winter, his eyes full of longing, before ultimately saying viciously, "Once this old man gets some money, I'll come back to settle with you harlots." With that, he walked down the street, apparently off to get some money. The middle-aged gambler hurried to follow, asking, "Old man, where can one get some silver?" "Who are you calling old man? I'm only 38 this year, younger than you. To get money, of course, you sell your eggs. Nowadays, what Wangchun City lacks the most are eggs. I traded one egg for 53 taels of silver last time, enjoyed 2 nights of bliss. Now I've still got one left." Seeing that this big master was willing to sell his last egg, the middle-aged gambler couldn't resist any longer and quickly followed suit. With an innate tendency to enjoy watching excitement, Duan Yun and his companions were originally keen on shopping, but upon witnessing this scene, they too joined in the spectacle. On the way, Fenglinger could not help but say, "Do you guys feel it? The air seems a bit sweet." The Murong brothers sniffed hard. "Should be the scent of rouge from the ladies, right?" Shining shook her head. "No, this fragrance makes the mind unclear." Duan Yun also realized, this scent easily excites people. "I wasn't planning to gamble or visit the brothel, but now." Fenglinger quickly pointed a finger at him. You can gamble, but absolutely cannot visit the brothel." Brothel-goers are not worthy to be heroes. They're less than pigs and dogs at Yuju Villa. The Murong brothers retorted with a tease. Cursing so viciously? What, seems like you want to visit the brothel. I'll have a word with Ning Qing when we return, Fenglinger replied. The Murong brothers immediately put on a face full of heroic spirit. I swear, whoever goes to the brothel has no eggs. Duan Yun looked at them, remarking, You're quite extreme. While they were saying how lacking eggs was extreme, shortly thereafter, they saw quite a few people without eggs. Because Qingchao Hall was just ahead. Qingchao Hall was the largest pharmacy within Wangchun City, rumored to collect many rare and exotic medical ingredients. They were also the ones who previously collected human ribs. And at this moment, there was a queue outside Qingchao Hall, all there to sell eggs. On the sign outside the shop it read, Good eggs, 20 taels each, fair to young and old. Seeing this, the gambling dog couldn't help but complain. I got 53 taels for each egg last time. Why has it decreased so much? When his turn came, he complained again. The person collecting the eggs looked at him with disdain. Are you selling or not? If not, scram. To think we'd even disdain your stale, useless eggs. The gambling dog instantly wilted, saying, Selling. Of course, selling. Don't see me as old. In fact, I'm only 38. Those who went in quickly came out with bandages wrapped around their crotch. In Duan Yun's eyes, their eyes shone with frenzied excitement as they left. The gambling dog continued to gamble with his silver. The food lovers headed to restaurants, and the most outrageous was the prostitution dog, crotch bandaged, heading to the brothel. The brothel madam told him to rest for 2 days, until the wound healed before returning, but he refused, insisting on going. Chapter 395. Having lost everything, the injured man was overwhelmed with uncontrollable desires for prostitution. Witnessing this scene, Duan Yun felt a chilling sensation. Previously, Wangchun City easily ignited the desire to spend silver, offering various indulgences. Even the serving girls at the restaurants smiled sweetly like beautiful young ladies. Everything resembled a seductive brothel. Now, it was even more exaggerated than before. Standing at the entrance of a casino, watching girls with partially exposed shirts shaking dice, he felt itchy in his hands. As Shining said, the fragrance permeating the air made one's head cloudy and spirits overly excited. Duan Yun was reminded of Macau in his previous life, where it was said that hotels pumped in oxygen to keep people excited and sleepless, thus luring them to gamble. Compared with the present Wangchun City, Macau was conservative. Here, people gambled, solicited prostitutes, and satisfied desires to an alarming extent. Mo sect truly had sinister practices. Duan Yun voiced his confusion, saying, You all think, as a hero, should we exterminate the entire family of the instigator? Upon hearing another mention of exterminating a family, this time Mo sect, Murong quickly responded, Brother, rest first, you're still injured. We're not in a position to make too many enemies now. Indeed, at this moment, he couldn't help but worry about Ning Qing. The massive shadow of Mingyu Palace loomed over him. Having made a name for himself at the martial arts conference, it shouldn't be long before people from Mingyu Palace would come knocking. Shining pondered. The 4 of us here, although a bit overexcited, are rather fine. Look at those coolies. They also seem all right. Murong quickly agreed. Right, after all, as long as someone is as virtuous as Murong, without thoughts of whoring and gambling, there won't be any problems. Fenglinger pondered. Those who are trapped here are probably those who can't control themselves. The whoring dogs and gambling dogs, if they don't lose everything here, they will inevitably do so somewhere else. Duan Yun, lost in thought, felt it was somewhat similar. He sensed that the street's fragrance and the style of each shop acted like a catalyst, accelerating everything and even forming a cycle. Here, gambling dogs gamble more joyfully and whoring dogs indulge more happily, and when you've even pawned your wife, it can still make you exchange eggs for silver. Nearby, 2 men were walking down the road. One man carrying vegetables laughed. Big brother, stop looking. Your wife is waiting for us to eat. The other, Big Beard, laughed heartily. I was just looking to please my eyes, not doing anything. All right, let's listen to you and hurry back. That tigress at home is quite fierce. Saying this, the two men quickly walked away. This undoubtedly corroborated Morong and Feng Linger's opinions that as long as you're not a whoring or gambling dog unable to control yourself, you wouldn't end up losing everything here. At this time, noise erupted from the brothel. "Sir, you can avoid coming here for now," a brothel girl said gently. "But your place is sinister, I can't resist it," a man said in agony. "Just avoid coming here, sir. If you leave the street for half an hour, you won't feel this way anymore. Out of sight, out of mind. We do business transparently. There's no coercion. I'll go home to get money and come back for you," the man said, conflicted. "Then hurry up, otherwise, I'll be with another client soon," the brothel girl said, smiling. "You must wait for me. I'll sell my wife and then come find you," the man said urgently. "Ah? You're selling your wife? Sir, calm down. Just take a break outside, and you'll cool down. I'm cool as eggs. I've decided to sell her." Saying this, the man hurried off. Seeing this scene, Duan Yun suddenly realized some people indeed do not deserve sympathy. After leaving that street, the four found the air no longer sweet, and the feeling of excitement also disappeared. Compared to some Jianghu people's villainous acts of killing and destroying families over trivial matters, as the brothel girl said, everything here was voluntary and without coercion. Duan Yun felt troubled for a moment. Then, putting away his notebook, he said, "It really isn't considered great evil." He disliked that street, for a young hero and gambling are utterly incompatible. But that street seemed more like a mutual rush of gambling dogs and brothels. Yes, Duan Yun thought that place was strange, like being ill. The whole of Wangchun City eliciting significant desires seemed mildly sick, but that street was even sicker. Yet, it wasn't evil to the extent nameless young hero considered. So Mo sect of Wangchun City temporarily escaped being listed in Duan Yun's Yama book. Seeing Duan Yun put away the book, Morong breathed a sigh of relief. Living like this, it was hard to say who was more dangerous, Jianghu or him. He always had the illusion that following Duan Yun to be a hero, he might become the public enemy of Jianghu. In Mo Tower, Mo sect elder Zhang Xiaoxia, wearing a pair of bright red shoes, stood above, overlooking everything in Wangchun City. "How's the collection of eggs going?" Zhang Xiaoxia asked. "Sir, we've collected 300. Increase efforts. These eggs are still needed. Elder, to increase efforts, should we send people to cut directly?" his subordinate asked. Zhang Xiaoxia's eyebrows twitched, angrily saying, "Cut directly? How is that different from those brutish Jianghu men who only know how to kill and ravage? I've always despised such things with no technical merit." Chapter 396. Penalize yourself by sacrificing an egg. The subordinate almost cried out loud. Zhang Xiaoxia couldn't help but laugh. "Losing an egg won't kill you, plus you're contributing to the Mo sect. I'm doing this for your own good, to teach you a lesson. Remember to be grateful." "Got it. Got it," the subordinate said gratefully. Zhang Xiaoxia revealed a satisfied smile and said, "You should know, innovation is what we value most in Mo sect. Even if it involves deceiving and killing, one must do it like old demon Duan, turning men into women and then deceiving and killing them again. Only then does it truly count. Understand?" As he spoke, Zhang Xiaoxia got excited. He was actually curious about experiencing being transformed by old demon Duan and the torment that followed, believing it to be a truly innovative feeling. "Thank you, Elder, for your guidance." The subordinate once again expressed his appreciation. Duan Yun and his group finished their purchasing and headed back home. Morong was eager to return. Here, he felt more like a butler than a follower. But only by returning to Yuzhu Villa and seeing Ningqing could he truly feel like the adored young hero. "I'm heading back first." Disliking the slow pace of the carriage, Morong went ahead on his own. Though the carriage was slow, it eventually almost arrived. By now, it was the afternoon and the sunlight shone on the yellowing grass, resembling a spread of gold. Duan Yun, Shining, and Feng Linger all felt the scene was beautiful. Even the usually sinister graveyard, bathed in the sunlight, seemed to be draped in golden gauze, appearing quite splendid. Every time they returned to Yuju Villa, everyone felt relaxed and comfortable. That was the feeling of home. Once Morong returned to the villa, he immediately headed underground. He knew Ningqing would be there. Ningqing had promised him to wait there for him. After Duan Yun returned to the villa and hugged Big White, he also went to the cellar. It must have been either Ziyu or Ningqing. Seeing his cellar so well kept made Duan Yun quite happy. However, he sat in front of the hole previously dug by Murong without seeing anyone emerge. He understood that upon Murong's return, he must have gone looking for someone through the tunnel. But was he taking too long? Could something have happened? The people from Mingyu Palace had not only found Ningqing and Ziyu, they might also have set a trap, causing Murong to be ensnared upon his arrival. At that moment, Fenglinger and Shining also came down. Duan Yun shared his thoughts, and their expressions grew solemn. Be careful. I'll go and check. With that, Duan Yun crawled in. The hole dug by Murong was rough, but this time as Duan Yun crawled through, he found the tunnel round and smooth. Clearly, Ningqing and Ziyu had done some further smoothing up. Life underground must be boring, so they probably found plenty to do. Duan Yun, now more worried about them, hastened his pace. Ziyu. Duan Yun approached and whispered. Ziyu turned and said, Shoo. Keep your voice down. Duan Yun couldn't help asking, What are you doing? Ziyu whispered, I'm eavesdropping, of course. Eavesdropping? The most tragic character in my book is inspired by Murong. The more tragic the character, the sweeter the love they must have had before. I'm searching for inspiration from these two, Ziyu said. Realizing there was no danger, Duan Yun relaxed and also got curious about listening, asking, So, what's their situation now? Ziyu, her ear against a metal sensor embedded in the wall, said, Ningqing just gave Murong a fewy. And then, Ziyu continued listening. Ningqing said she's going to take a bath. Oh right, she asked about you. Ah? Duan Yun was puzzled. Is that supposed to inspire sweet feelings? Then, suddenly looking at him, Ziyu said, I've done what I promised you, and I want what you promised me tonight. Saying this, she brushed past Duan Yun to leave. Aren't you listening anymore? These two, the more I listen, the less inspiration I get. Ziyu said disdainfully. Looking back at Duan Yun, she added meaningfully, I think it's better to find inspiration in you later. Saying this, she exited. Duan Yun stared at the thin tube, thinking Ziyu truly was crazy for indulging in such a twisted hobby of eavesdropping. Later, he too put his ear to it. After a while, he couldn't help but shout loudly, Murong, I'm the one who killed Zhao Ling and twerked, not me. You're spouting nonsense just to impress girls, aren't you? Chapter 397. Without me, young hero Duan, the martial world would be in eternal darkness. Shameless scoundrel, daring to eavesdrop. After being caught bragging in front of Ningqing, Murong got angry out of humiliation. But he didn't really have much confidence to back himself up. Actually, Duan Yun also didn't have much confidence. One boasting and fabricating, the other sneakily eavesdropping. Neither could be considered upright and honorable. What are you all still nesting in the cave for? Are we eating or not? At this moment, Shun Ying's voice came from inside the cave. Afterwards, Duan Yun and the others finally crawled out. Finally, the group appeared neatly within the villa. Stepping out of the cellar, Ningqing instinctively squinted her eyes. In recent days, she hadn't dared to show her face even once. Suddenly appearing under the daylight, she felt somewhat uncomfortable. Because during this time, she had recovered some memories and understood more of the terror of Mingyu Palace. However, she was always meant to see the sun again, so she came out. Today, everyone was gathered. What had once been as gloomy as a haunted house, Yuju Villa now seemed lively with people. Thinking that the big event at hand was over, the Yuju quartet had killed the mad woman of Huangshan and her family and beat up a bunch of evil demons who had colluded with her, effectively preventing a martial arts catastrophe. Duan Yun and his friends all felt a great sense of achievement. The martial world was finally becoming a better place thanks to these heroes. Although the new year had already passed, at this moment, the group truly felt like they were celebrating it. Since there were many people and it was lively, and they also had to make up for not celebrating the new year, what they would eat tonight was naturally hot pot. Duan Yun personally cooked the hot pot ingredients, and even used the heroic fire lotus to stir-fry for an explosive aroma. It must be said that using the heroic fire lotus for cooking was really good. It could stir-fry thoroughly in an instant, bringing bursts of fragrant aroma. Meanwhile, Feng Linger was slicing meat with her swordsmanship, even carving flowers out of one piece of meat. Xining was also busy on the side. 8 Extreme's power coursing through the pork and beef. The meatballs she pinched out looked very appetizing. The 3 of them bustling about in the kitchen looked more and more like a family of 3. Morong and Ning Qing continued to talk about amusing incidents. This time, Morong had taken on Chan Sanju, the sect leader of the Huangshan sword sect alone. Although he had sacrificed a bit of his looks, in the end, it was he who had initiated the fight. This undoubtedly boosted Morong's confidence again. A year ago, although he was somewhat renowned for practicing Demon Blade, his fame was the kind onlookers focused on. Confronting the sect leader of Huangshan sword sect? He hadn't even thought about it. Didn't dare to think about it. But a year and a half later, today he already had the achievement of defeating Chen Sanju. One could only say that Duan Yun triggered the potential of the greatest sword talent in 100 years from the Morong family. Although he was a bit behind Duan Yun, this freak, it was still just a tiny bit, making him 1 in 10,000. It was this victory that gave him such confidence. This confidence undoubtedly infected Ning Qing, giving her the courage to see the light of day again. And Ziyu, she had always been watching these people in the role of an observer. Once she started writing a book in search of inspiration, she would enter this state. She had to admit, Duan Yun, Morong, Feng Linger, and Xining, these 4 had undoubtedly created a miracle. 4 demons with at most 1.5 years of experience had taken down the Huangshan sword sect, which had refined 2 dragon essences all on their own, and the remaining 6 sects in less than 2.5 years. If this wasn't a miracle, what was? At night, 6 people sat around the bonfire eating hot pot. A large iron pot just purchased from the town was filled with hot pot base ingredients personally stir-fried by young hero Duan, paired with meatballs punched out by heroine Dang, and vegetables personally carved by red heroine. They were truly indulging passionately in the feast. Because they put a fair amount of chili and Sichuan pepper, not long after the group started eating, they began to sweat profusely. It's New Year. It really is New Year. Eating hot pot was already very lively, not to mention with alcohol. Tonight there was a moon, and the moonlight was intoxicating, but the people were even more drunk. In the happiest moment, Morong performed the butt-twisting dance he used when defeating Chan Sanju on the spot. Even Panda Dabai and Little Gray found it harsh on the eyes. Feng Linger even went to vomit directly, which incited fits of laughter. Even Ning Qing, who was usually tense, showed a rare smile at that time. Led by Duan Yun, this group of people possessed a mysterious confidence, which influenced her as well, making her feel that indeed there was nothing major to worry about. At night, Duan Yun and Ziyu were not asleep. They were in a quiet room in the cellar doing a secret thing. Duan Yun's hand was pressed on her head, while he gently drew out with the beaming divine skill. He also told her the story of their bloody battle at Gathering Talent Manor and against the mad woman of Huangshan. Be careful. Put more strength into it. Ziyu now knelt down and said. Duan Yun immediately satisfied her request, increasing the strength of the beaming divine skill. In an instant, she began to shiver continuously. Don't stop. I haven't stopped. I meant your story. Duan Yun continued to tell the story of the blood battle and how the mad woman of Huangshan wet herself in fright while she shivered on her body. Ziyu had an extremely exhilarated expression on her face. This was her and Duan Yun's secret. She was willing to stay with Ning Qing and act as a half-bodyguard because Duan Yun agreed to this condition. The sensation of shivering while listening to material gave her a strangely wonderful feeling. Sure enough, she was now full of inspiration, storylines wildly emerging in her brain. the pleasure in her sea of consciousness reaching its peak. It was just too exhilarating. Even old demon Duan, known as a freak, felt she was deviant at this moment and couldn't help but criticize. I didn't expect you to have such a peculiar taste. Chapter 398. Ziyu's face turned red all of a sudden. You should know she's always been very proper and rarely abnormal. So she couldn't help but explain, "It's my sister's hobby, not mine." At that moment, the two of them shivered and looked back. Because they heard footsteps. Feng Linger was standing there, watching this scene from a secret corner with a shocked expression on her face. "What are you doing?" When she said this, her face seemed to turn green. Ziyu closed her eyes, enjoying, "We're exchanging plot ideas. Can't you see? Do you need to do that for plot exchanging? I like it this way. It gives me inspiration." Seeing this, Duan Yun said, "Let's stop here today and exchange more another day. After all, with someone here, it might affect the plot exchange." But then Ziyu suddenly grabbed his hand, saying, "No, don't stop. There's someone here," Duan Yun explained. At this time, Shining also heard the noise and came over. "It's better with people around. People bring more inspiration." "You promised me," Ziyu said frantically. Duan Yun suddenly understood. He had always felt Green Jade was bolder and crazier, while Ziyu was more of a good girl, but now it seemed that the good girl image was just a pretense, and Ziyu could be crazier under certain circumstances. Damn, there's hardly a normal person in Yuju Villa. This time he didn't stop and said, "Don't worry, young hero Duan keeps his promises." Saying this, he increased his force. The strange suction affected the oil lamp in the cellar, and when it shook, Shining and Feng Linger both looked a bit green. "Is she really looking for inspiration or just pretending?" Feng Linger asked. "It doesn't seem like an act," Shining answered. "Then this is just her being abnormal." At this moment, the Murong brothers also came down. Seeing this scene, the gourd they were holding, which was filled with water, fell to the ground. "What's this situation?" Looking at Ziyu trembling together with Duan Yun and hearing her say, "Don't stop. Continue." It made Murong's image of Ning Tian, who had dressed as a man and talked worldly matters with him, blur suddenly. Then he snapped back to reality, scolding Duan Yun. "Duan Yun, although she's my sister, can you be gentler?" Ziyu retorted, "It was my idea. Mind your own business. We're almost there." "Duan Yun, tell me, how did you manage to beat the mad woman of Huang Mountain into submission? The more detailed, the better." Watching this scene, Shen Ying and the others confirmed this woman was indeed a lunatic. The craziest kind. Overnight, Ziyu returned to her normal good girl persona, busy with writing and painting all day, hardly finding time to eat. This somewhat relieved Feng Linger and Shen Ying, as it seemed she really just wanted to stimulate herself with Duan Yun for her writing. That afternoon, the sweet lady from the big furnace personally visited, delivering a thick stack of Si-Tong silver notes. The said Si-Tong silver notes are issued by Si-Tong Bank. As one of the largest banks in Martial World, Si-Tong Bank has 108 branches, each capable of exchanging full amounts of silvertail with excellent credibility. Si-Tong Bank has grown so large, and Si-Tong silver notes are so robust because of its solid foundation. It is said that the royal family and Mo sect are its backers. This time, the big furnace really didn't skimp on a single silver. They didn't dare. After all, those staying here were either friends doing tasks for the four demons or might be the demons themselves. Even though Sweet Lady was still interested in Duan Yun's handsome face, she really didn't dare to overstep this time. As she left, looking at the dilapidated estate, she always had an illusion as if the demon's energy was soaring into the sky. It's a good thing that last time, she didn't think of using some means to sleep with Duan Yun, or else she might have fallen into the demon cave. After receiving the silver notes, Duan Yun stood up and said, "I need to make a trip to Wangchun City." Murong suddenly became alert. "We agreed no prostituting." "Who's going to prostitute?" Duan Yun retorted. "Then are you going to gamble?" Murong asked in surprise. "I don't like gambling," Duan Yun replied. He always felt that gambling and prostituting in Wangchun City were linked, like the women shaking dice in the gambling houses dressed even more enticingly than the girls in brothels. According to MO-sex views, maybe these girls also have part-time jobs in brothels, or perhaps they were genuinely dual-purpose, required to shake dice in gambling houses and also take clients in brothels, utilizing their full value. This is also why there are often brothels next to gambling houses. After all, the gamblers who win tend to be very generous and very eager to satisfy their desires with silver. So what are you going to do? Morong was puzzled. Go to the curtain gate. Why go to the curtain gate? To buy information. Didn't you say that it's not easy to find the people from Mingyu Palace? Duan Yun explained. Hearing Mingyu Palace, Morong felt a chill. Brother, why are you looking for Mingyu Palace? Didn't we agree to deal with the mad woman of Huang Mountain first and then annihilate Mingyu Palace's entire family? They dared to chase after you last time. Completely disrespectful. Duan Yun said seriously. Morong broke into a cold sweat, saying, They probably didn't know you back then. You see, we made such a big scene in Gathering Talent Manor, and they didn't come after us, probably out of respect for us heroes of Yuzhu. Isn't it a bit late for respect now? Duan Yun countered. Not late. Morong nervously said. Really not late, brother. Your injuries haven't healed yet. Duan Yun stated. But I'll be healed soon. On the way to Mingyu Palace, I'll probably be fully recovered. Chapter 399. The Morong brothers broke out in a sweat and hurriedly said, But my injuries are not healed. I can't recover properly without at least half a year of rest. Duan, big brother, please don't be impulsive. Give me some face, and give Mingyu Palace a chance to turn over a new leaf. As long as they don't come looking for trouble again, we'll call it even. This time, if you get hurt again, Fenglinger and Shining will definitely blame me. It's good to rest for a while. Duan Yun looked at the Morong brothers, raised an eyebrow, and finally said, All right, if you're not holding on to past grievances, what more can I say? You're making me seem petty. Upon hearing this, the Morong brothers heaved a long sigh of relief. Although they had the victory over the Huangshan sword sect under their belt, the Morong brothers were truly not ready to immediately trouble Mingyu Palace, the myth of the martial world. Today, the peach tree in the courtyard sprouted a hint of tender green. The weather was still cold, but everyone knew spring was not far away. In the 1 or 2 months since their return, Yuzhu Villa had been peaceful. Fenglinger and Shining still loved to go fishing. Ziyu was busy writing, and the Morong brothers loved spending time with Ning Qing. The Morong brothers and Ning Qing were most worried about a confrontation with Mingyu Palace, which never occurred. It seemed they knew of the events at Gathering Talent Manor where they fought the Devil Seed, and indeed Mingyu Palace had given the Jade Pearl group of heroes some respect. As spring drew closer, Ning Qing was gradually getting used to living without the threat of being hunted. One day, Duan Yun and his companions went to small Springtown to make some purchases. The news of their fierce battle against the group of demons had already spread. Thus, the reputation of the Jade Pearl heroes, especially the nameless young hero and the green saber young hero, was solidified. In small Springtown, a storyteller with a concerned expression spoke. Old Demon Duan and Green Blade Demon left behind a sea of blood at Gathering Talent Manor. Lady Zhao Ling faced disgrace before her tragic death. Her tears scattered across the manor. It's truly sorrowful. One could say, the backbone of the martial world in our Yun and Qing provinces has been broken by the Jade Pearl 4 demons. In this darkest hour of the martial world, who can bring the light? There are so many righteous sects in the martial world. Evil will never overcome the good. Even if old Demon Duan is strong, it's only temporary, someone replied. Having heard this tale many times, Duan Yun and his companions knew immediately that this man was a plant for the storyteller. Sure enough, the storyteller slapped his wooden block and said, You, sir, speak wisely. Evil cannot overcome good, and the root of the major righteous sects in the martial world is far deeper than imagined. Despite the downfall of the Huangshan sword sect after the battle at Gathering Talent Manor, there are still many sects with deeper foundations, standing tall and unshaken. If you ask me, Solely the Kongtong sect is strong enough to take up the mantle and thoroughly deal with the likes of Old Demon Duan and Green Blade Demon. Yes, I think the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch position cannot remain vacant forever, and the Kongtong sect likely has the intention to eliminate demons, the plant added. You bastard! With a slap, right after the plant finished speaking, there was a loud smack, and he was sent flying from the force of an enormous hand. The owner of the hand, with a fan-sized palm, was a man with a big beard, taking 2 steps at a time, approaching the stage with large strides. The storyteller asked with panic, "Sir, what are you doing?" In the next moment, there was a loud thud as the storyteller's head was brutally smashed into the table, his face contorted. "I'm from the Kongtong sect. You son of a bitch trying to bring doom upon my sect. I'll beat you to death." Saying this, Big Beard lifted the storyteller and punched him in the face. So the storyteller's face burst into an array of colors as if he'd been to a dye shop. Blue, purple, red splashed everywhere. Not until the storyteller was severely beaten, blood gushing and his tongue partially torn, did Big Beard stop. He shouted, "Everyone, please don't listen to this bastard's nonsense." His words sow discord. The Kongtong sect has always held the group of heroes led by the nameless giant hero in high regard, and we've never intended to offend. This kind of troublemaker who sows discord really deserves to die. Saying this, he kicked the storyteller once more. Everyone knew Old Demon Duan was petty. If words like these reached his ears, wouldn't the Kongtong sect be inviting disaster? Seeing the storyteller dealt with by the Kongtong sect in this manner, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers felt unexpectedly good about it. They exchanged glances, and Duan Yun concluded, "It seems the Kongtong sect does have some sense of reason." The Murong brothers nodded and said, "I agree." Feeling good, Duan Yun thought that if more sects in the martial world had such reasoning, the martial world would certainly become a better place. He believed that with efforts from those as just as himself, there would one day come a time when he would no longer need any disguise, and the entire martial world would know he was a hero, a real hero, and he would not be slandered as a demon. Yes, that day would come. Chapter 400. You really dare to disrespect this young hero? Yuchang Town is just a very ordinary small town in the mountainous region of Yu State. If it has a characteristic, it must be that it is built on the mountains, so due to the terrain, the entire town's architecture is like intertwined fish intestines, and strangers can easily get lost walking inside. A storyteller around 30 years of age, with a square cloth wrapped around his head, walks on the fish intestine-like paths. He seems to know his way around, as this is his ancestral home. At the end of the alley, there is a withered pine or cypress tree, standing like a piece of rotting wood, or a dead body. The storyteller goes straight to the door next to it and enters. Here is a small courtyard. Behind the courtyard there are 3 pitch-black corridors. Nobody, not even the locals, is sure where these 3 corridors actually lead. After all, this is a private house. It's perfectly reasonable for it to be built according to the mountainous terrain and twist like fish intestines. The storyteller goes directly into the corridor on the left. After passing through the darkness, another withered tree appears in front of him. But then his figure flickers beside the withered tree, and he has disappeared into the ground. Below the tree is a gloomy space that seems to be a shrine, solemn and mysterious. As the storyteller walks inside, his eyes shine as if glowing. Ahead, a white screen appears. In front of the screen stands another storyteller dressed just like him. The two have somewhat similar features, but one's face is full of wrinkles and looks aged. Thus, they seem less like brothers and more like father and son or uncle and nephew. The storyteller takes the incense and candles from the old storyteller and walks behind the screen. At this point, several red threads are hanging down from above the shrine. Among those entwined red threads, a lump of meat is suspended. The lump is black, its surface full of textures, resembling both a piece of liver and a sort of elixir. The storyteller undoes his headband, flicks his finger lightly, and a cluster of flames blossoms at his fingertips, lighting the incense candle he brought. The candle burns, illuminating the storyteller's face. At this moment, he is kneeling on the ground, kowtowing and bowing to the hanging lump of meat, murmuring words. It's as if he is not facing a piece of meat, but his ancestors or deities. Even more bizarre, when the smoke rises from the incense burner, the black lump of meat starts to move. Its surface begins to show slits and small holes, like open mouths and nostrils, crazily sucking in the scent of the incense. And at this time, the burning incense clearly contains things like hair and nails embedded in it. Drip, drip, drip. At this moment, the black lump of meat begins to drop a black liquid, which falls into the porcelain bowl below. The storyteller carefully wraps the bowl in cloth and exits. He stands next to the old man. The old man's face is expressionless like a human skin mask. He says coldly, "I thought you wouldn't come back so soon." The middle-aged storyteller replies, "I didn't expect it either." "How is Tai Sui doing?" asks the old storyteller. "It will try to awaken our clan members," the middle-aged storyteller answers. The old man says dispassionately, "Is the situation really so dire that you need to use Tai Sui so soon?" These days, although the number of our clan members has not noticeably decreased, their power to control minds and reverse right and wrong has been weakening. Even Tai Sui has noticed, the middle-aged storyteller contemplates. The old man remains impassive, questioning, "Why is that the case?" The bloodthirsty storyteller, this new group of evil demons that have emerged, actually possess abilities similar to ours, to bewitch people's hearts. On their territories, they are gradually becoming strong enough to contend with us, which is not conducive to our dominance over the martial world. Laments the middle-aged storyteller. "Is it that old demon Duan who started this storyteller business?" asks the old man. "Yes, it is him. Recently in Gathering Talent Manor, he destroyed the execution sect led by Huangshan Sword Sect. Even the previously renowned lady of Huangshan Sword Sect was scared to death," the middle-aged storyteller explains. "That mad woman Zhao Ling thought, by refining dragon essence, she could lead the martial world. Pure folly." The old man's tone is cold. "Why not kill that group of evil demon storytellers along with old demon Duan?" The old man continues to question. "They are too similar to us. We can't kill them all," the middle-aged storyteller explains. "How is that possible? Old demon Duan isn't Tai Sui." Emotion surfaces on the old storyteller's face for the first time. It's the strangeness of the situation. No matter what we do to them, even if we kill and dismember them, there still would be those who would take up the mantle of the great hero storyteller, and their numbers might even grow. Speaking of which, the middle-aged storyteller looks at the porcelain bowl in his hand and says, "This is also why I came to request help from Tai Sui. With the dripping of Tai Sui's blood, the bloodthirsty storyteller will rage. These 4 drops of Tai Sui blood are enough to make our people appear like bamboo shoots after the rain in both states." In simple terms, the bloodthirsty storytelling would become a phenomenon passed from person to person. At least in both Qingzhou and Laizhou, the bloodthirsty storytellers will take control of the situation with overwhelming numbers. The old man sighs. Nowadays, Tai Sui only has this remnant limb left, and there is not much blood it can spill. The middle-aged storyteller bows his head, reverently saying, "That's why Tai Sui is not pleased and wants you, uncle, to serve it." The face of the old storyteller twitches. Surely something that causes his face to twitch must be extremely dreadful and painful. After all, there are not many things in this world that can provoke emotion in him.